seem like a professional channel. I am Lance Nilsson, one of the founders of the Outcast Creative. And here we are on another episode of Chew the Fat, where basically we chew the fat about stuff we like and have a good laugh with a fellow film or television drama enthusiast. Tonight, I've got a very special guest with me. I've got the man from Nerdly Out Loud himself. Here he is.
Yo!
Look at that flash background you've got on now.
Look at that. It was green screen before. Now
I know. It's the wonders of cinema. It's amazing. So
I like to leave that till we go live, and then people go, "Oh man, that really threw me off."
Fantastic. Well, we don't have to worry about making any mistakes right now because there's no one watching. But
that's all good. That's all good.
I'm sure that'll change. Anyway, so tonight we're talking about disaster films, which is an interesting genre because it was very big in the late 60s, 70s, and there were certain types of movies that were coming out. You would say that's a disaster film. So I don't know how old you are, Kev, but when I was growing up, they were the ones that were on telly on a Saturday night, and it was a bit of a treat to stay up and watch these things. I
think for me that was more the 90s, which probably is showing my age a little bit, but like the mid to late 90s, what a resurgence they had. I mean, I think most of my films on my top 10 are like 95 to like 99, which is mad. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah,
that's when the likes of kind of like Volcano, Dante's Peak, Armageddon, Godzilla, which I guess you could call a disaster movie to a degree. A bit of a crossover film, but I'd accept that if that was on the list. Those films all came out around that time, so there was a resurgence in the 90s. It was quite short because most of them were box office flops, if I remember rightly.
but they tend to have gone on to have found a following. Like DVD was such an amazing thing in the 90s and the early 2000s. And then obviously like DVD, everybody suddenly got a PS2, so you now had a DVD player, and yeah, man, that's where they found their niche, I think, in the 90s.
Yeah, I think I mean they've got a certain formula, these types of films. So just for those people watching, we're going to have a couple of caveats, okay? So on our top 10 list, we're not having any what I would call historical disaster films that don't have fictional characters. I'll give a good example of that. So A Night to Remember, which is about the Titanic disaster, that's a true story drama, which you could argue is a disaster film, but all the characters in it are real people. So it's really a historical true story drama, whereas Titanic is about historical disaster, but the characters in it are fictional for the most part. There are some real historical characters in there, but it's fictional. So I would accept Titanic on the list. I would not accept A Night to Remember, which, by the way, is the better of the two films. For those people watching, I'm sure you'd agree with me on that if you've seen them both.
I mean, there was no danger of me putting Titanic in, but yeah, I understand what you're saying about that, and the whole the true life, not having it based on true life, that killed a good portion of my list.
Yeah, I just didn't. You could argue that like Hillsborough is a disaster film. You could argue that Bloody Sunday is a disaster film. These were both disastrous things. People lost their lives. I don't really want those titles sitting on a list next to Volcano and Dante's Peak. I feel these are tonally very different films. So when we talk about disaster films, we're really talking about, I mean, let's mention the man himself who kind of started it, really, Irwin Allen. So is it Irwin Allen? Irwin Allen? I think how you pronounce it. But he is the guy who made the big films in the 70s. He did Earthquake, Poseidon, Inferno. He did all of those, and they had a very similar format. There were always going to be characters that you liked in the group of survivors, and there were always characters that you kind of hated that you didn't really want to survive. What's a disaster film for you, Kev? What do you feel the format is for you?
I mean, yeah, classic disaster movie. I like a natural disaster. Obviously you can have the Towering Inferno with the building and all that, which I guess you could say is a bit of a natural disaster. But I like earthquakes. I like tornadoes. I like rainstorms, like hard rain and stuff like that. That's my bag when it comes to a disaster movie.
One of the ones that I saw in the cinema, I think we're talking early to mid 2000s. You might have to check on IMDb for me. Would be Flood with Robert Carlyle.
Yeah, man, that was a great movie.
Yeah, do you know what? I really liked it. It was
totally
underrated. There was I think it's sort of the last 20 minutes kind of let it down with some of the geography of the things that happened didn't quite make sense. But and I've got the DVD of it, and I think there's a longer version of it available as well because I think it was originally envisaged as a 2-part movie. But I remember it made it onto the news, and I remember the newsreader saying, "Flood. It's like an American movie. Why can't we make more films like this?" That was the newscaster said that, which I thought was hilarious.
I think if I remember correctly, they split it in half and put it on Sky One.
They probably did. I mean, I saw it. I saw it at the cinema just down from where the Plaza Cinema used to be in Piccadilly Circus, if you know that. And a lot of people have their premieres there. Just Joshua Levesque is here. He's just said hello to both of us. Josh, if you haven't subbed to Nerdly Out Loud's channel, check it out. Josh is a moderator with me on the Critical Drinkers forums. We're both mods on there. That's how we met.
That's right. You're a friend of the drinker.
I'm a drunkard. Yeah, that's me.
A drunkard. I like it.
While I remember, let me give his book a plug. So this is Will Jordan, aka the Critical Drinkers' latest book. And he was kind enough to give me a signed copy of it. Look at that. That's going to be worth double the price one day on eBay.
It'll be worth £20.
This is on pre-order, so this is an advanced copy, which I feel really honoured to. I didn't ask for this or anything. In fact, it was in my outbox on my basket on Amazon to buy it, and I nearly bought it the day before I met up with him. And he's like, "Oh, I brought you this, by the way." And I was like, "Oh, that's really nice of you." So he did get a big model of the NCC Reliant from us as a thank you for coming on our channel. Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but it's interesting because this book is a disaster movie because it's about the outbreak of a plague, and I think that counts as a disaster movie because that's under the bracket, isn't it? So floods, plagues, earthquakes.
It definitely feels like I've been watching Critical Drinker for some time now, and it definitely feels like writing a disaster movie would definitely be in his window, like his wheelhouse.
Yeah, I'm sure he could write a script if he put his mind to it. Although he's mainly focusing on books now, and I don't want him stealing my job. I'd happily write a script for any of his books, and definitely check them out if you haven't already. So I'm going to mention a few that didn't make it onto my list, and feel free to chip in if you've seen them. And so one of the ones mentioned before we came on, I don't know what the first disaster movie was that I saw. It probably was an Irwin Allen film on TV, but one of the ones I remembered being annoyed that I missed at the cinema because I was quite young when it came out. But it was around that era where we'd just gone to see Star Wars. So it was around that time. It was like late 70s. It was Meteor with Sean Connery.
Nice.
And that was quite a big budget, expensive film for its day. And I think that and The Swarm came out around not too far apart from each other with Michael Caine.
Michael Caine.
Yeah, both pretty similar kind of films, with the world's got a dilemma, and we're going to find the cheesiest way possible we can to stop it. The Swarm being about bees, but I don't know if you've seen that with Michael Caine.
I've not seen The Swarm, but I've seen Meteor. But no, I've not seen The Swarm. But bees, yeah, I don't like that. I'm not into bees.
The Swarm has got, I don't know if there's a clip on YouTube we might be able to find, but The Swarm has got some really effective, sequences where you've got, I assume there's stuntmen. It's not like you're going to get the actors doing this, but some really effective sequences with stuntmen running through actual swarms of bees because they didn't have CGI then, and
you can keep that.
Yeah, there were about 3 B movies that came out around the same time. One of them was a made-for-TV one, and I remember that with that they attached a horn to a car, big like loud hailer, and got all the things to come to the car, and they were driving the car through town into this soccer stadium that then they were going to gas them all and put them to sleep or something. And the Swarm has a similar ending. Meteor is, surprise about a meteor heading to Earth. And do you remember that was it was almost like the ending of Rocky IV, Russia and America team up.
Oh, you gotta love it when Russia and America team up.
Yeah, I can't see that happening anytime soon.
You never know. We've got a new Creed coming, so we may well see Putin standing up and applauding Apollo Creed's son. We don't know.
That'd be funny.
Rocky IV was a movie, wasn't it? That was a movie.
That was the second film. We're definitely diverging genres here. That was the second film, top 10 sports movies. That'd be on my top 10 list. It was the second film I ever saw at the Odeon West End. The first one being Silverado, which I'd seen a week earlier. And no, I think it might have been the third, because I think, tell a lie, I think I saw Tom Cruise in Legend. and they were all on the same screen. It was the same screen each time, packed out audience each time. First time seeing a movie in a proper stereo surround on a massive screen that was bigger than your house, you know. Rocky IV was a great film to see at cinema with a packed audience because everybody was so into it.
Oh yeah, it's one of those few movies that I think over the years, like I never seen any of the Rockies in the cinema, apart from I think it was the first Creed movie, which I guess is a Rocky movie, but I never got to see one in the cinema. But that's definitely one that I imagine just the atmosphere and the vibe when you're watching one of those movies on the big screen would be incredible.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I certainly don't forget the atmosphere going to see it. Don't remember much else about that time in my life, but I remember the movie.
That just means you had a good time.
I was going to, like I said, I was just mentioned some others. One that I remember that was a TV movie was called Hanging by a Thread, and it was in a cable car.
Oh, nice.
And that was another one that was made for TV. That came out around the same time as Avalanche. I don't know if you remember Avalanche, which
I've never seen Avalanche, but I've seen like bits and pieces of it because it's one of those things that people still talk about.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, you know, back then, because these were sort of, as a kid, these were like introductions into natural phenomena that could kill you that you didn't know about as a kid. And suddenly there's a film out called Avalanche. What's an avalanche, Dad? Well, it's when loads of snow comes steaming down a mountain, really fucks up a town's day and kills lots of people. Shit. I'm glad we don't live in that town, Dad, you know, but let's watch the film about it. Sounds good. Yeah, that one. I didn't see that at the cinema. That was another like Sunday afternoon job. Hanging by a Thread was another one. I've got Earthquake on there, which Earthquake is not on my top 10. It might be on yours. Don't tell me if it is, but I'll tell you why it's not on my top 10. It's not on my top 10 because apart from Victoria Principal, who, let's face it, is good in anything, I just like looking at her. I didn't like any of the characters in Earthquake, so I didn't give a shit whether they made it or not. And in fact, Earthquake also didn't like the characters in Earthquake because they killed off nearly all of the characters. It's one of the few ones where the main character, actually it's not the only one, but one of your main characters doesn't make it out, and you kind of wanted that person to make it out, but they kind of did that with Poseidon as well. So we'll get on to those. We'll get on to those. Any others that you want to mention that you didn't make it onto your list before we start?
Well, it was kind of one of those things where I was putting my list together, and obviously we took off the true stories and everything, so I lost a good chunk of my list there, because I had a couple that were like, oh man, that would be pretty high.
Tell me what they were anyway.
I had the Impossible, you know,
I would have had that. That was a really, really good movie. Ewan McGregor. Yeah,
it's an outstanding film, and I don't necessarily rate Tom Holland's choices these days. I kind of feel like the stuff outside of Marvel, he's just making crap. I mean, he's no Nathan Drake, let's be honest. But impossible.
He made a good choice with his wife, though. I mean, I'd marry Zendaya.
Oh, he made a hell of a choice with his wife.
Yeah.
But yeah, The Impossible was the first time I ever really saw Tom Holland, and that film is just terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, just terrifying.
I don't know. I bought the DVD of it. It was one of those ones, I saw it at the supermarket and picked it up, and I was like, let me look at the cast. Good cast. And then I thought, let me read the back. And I thought, okay, someone's actually done a movie about this, because I was waiting for someone. I knew so many people out there when that happened.
Yeah.
The year was that happened? 2011, something like, was it earlier?
2010, 2011.
Yeah,
maybe.
So we're talking about the earthquake that happened off of Thailand that caused the tsunami. And it's the story is loosely based on it, isn't it? A real Swedish family or Norwegian family? But they don't play them as foreigners. They just play them as just a neutral speaking country. I think they keep their characters the same. We don't really get into that. It is really good. It's really engrossing, and you really want to know what happens to them. And the scenes with the water are brilliantly handled. Well done.
My wife gave up on it about 10 minutes in, because I mean she's not really into that kind of thing anyway. But when sort of like it's all happened and she meets up with Tom Holland again, like we're talking like pretty close to the start of the movie, and like her bones kind of popping out, and she's like,
oh god, yeah. Ooh,
she turned around to me and she went, "I'm out. You can watch this by yourself."
Well, you know what? We'll do a because I want to do this. We'll do a top 10 true story dramas. Man. Come back for that.
The only other one that I really wanted to have on there, but I couldn't narrow it down to whether it is a disaster movie. I personally think it is, but I couldn't narrow it down. Was 12 Monkeys. I really wanted
that's an interesting choice. Yeah, I'm gonna say probably not, because it's more of a conspiracy sci-fi Twilight Zone kind of. It's a hard movie to pin down genre-wise. You're right. Now I'm trying to do it. I'm thinking, what the fuck is it?
And I was kind of like, it kind of is sort of post-apocalyptic, but at the same time, it really isn't. And I was like, I'll just drop it.
That was probably I think that was probably a good call.
But I mean, that's one.
I might have vetoed that. So
that's one of those movies that would easily sit in my top 20 at least.
All right. Well, having talked about some that aren't on the list, let's go. Let's do number 10.
Let's do this.
Number 10. All right. So my number 10, I only watched 2 days ago for the first time. Nice. And I've actually got a trailer for it here, which is on YouTube. So that should come under fair use, seeing as we're discussing the film.
Screw YouTube and the rules.
So, as I've got that ready, shall we have a look at it?
Yeah, man, go for it.
This is only a short trailer. It's like 43. This is for Pandora, which is from Korea, and was made in 2016. And it's inspired by kind of other true events that have happened, but it is a fictional thing, so it does qualify. Let's have a little look at it, and you guys can see what you think of it. I'll pump the volume up a bit, and I'll go a bit bigger on the screen here. There you go.
That doesn't give much away, does it?
No, I mean I kind of wanted to do that deliberately because I didn't want to spoil anything for anyone. It's basically about a nuclear reactor that explodes. It's a very similar setup to the is it the Fukushima? I said that wrongly, didn't I? That sounded rude.
I think you said it wrong on purpose, though, right?
Fukushima or wherever it is, the power plant that was in Japan, wasn't it? In Japan.
All right, yeah.
There was an earthquake and it was a big thing. Yeah, probably should be retitled and called that. It's clearly inspired by that event. I wanted at least one foreign movie in my list because Japan actually is one of the king of the disaster movies. This isn't a Japanese movie. I did look at some Japanese titles. This is Korean. Korea, as we know, amazing output at the minute, both for television series and films. Really good quality stuff. That obviously their style of acting is very different. Everything's very big. Everything's very, you know, it's very visceral and sometimes getting your head around that different style of acting and appreciating actually their acting is good because it's a cultural difference.
Oh yeah,
But I really liked it. It's got all the usual tropes of a disaster movie, but it felt very real. So it's of all of my choices, it's probably the one that sort of sits. Yeah, I would say it's the one that sits in the real world that you could believe it could have happened. And of course, with the radiation, you know that most of the characters that you're getting to know are going to die, and it's a question of this film becomes about how they choose to die rather than if they're going to get out. Usually, disaster movies are about a group of people. We're going to try and get out, and some of us are not going to make it. That's the usual setup. This is different to that. Yeah, they've got some relatives who get out and things, but we're not going to get out. The question is, you know, how are we going to die and how we're going to save millions of others. So I kind of liked that it was different. You kind of knew that once you kind of were where you were at with it, you kind of knew, okay, most of these characters are probably not going to make it.
That's a thing that you find as well with the foreign language movies, the Koreans and the Japanese movies and everything. Like, they're not afraid to do that. Whereas in a big budget American movie, like they're not going to let Brad Pitt die. Like, he has to survive. But like in these like foreign language movies, it's like, you know what? Let's just go for it. Let's just do it the way it's supposed to be, and let's just shock and divide the audience.
Yeah. I mean, unless Brad Pitt's coming in for like a £10 million cameo and he's just there for 2 days. But unlikely in a disaster film. I
did almost have a Korean movie in there. It only just came out a couple of years ago, so like recency bias kind of made me not put it in there. But did you see? I think it was Wandering Earth. It was called.
No, and somebody else mentioned that title to me, but I haven't.
It's absolutely
seen
incredible.
Wandering Earth.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they've done a sequel, which I haven't checked out. But the first one, like, I just loved the idea of strapping rockets to Earth and thrusting it through space because where they currently live just isn't working. Like, Wandering Earth, it's a great, great film.
Oh, yeah, I remember the trailer for this. I'm just seeing it now, and I never actually sat down and watched it. Is that on Netflix? I might look at that tonight.
I'm pretty sure it is on Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah, Netflix Asia. Okay.
It's over the top. It's a little bit crazy, and the idea is just, what are you doing? But mate, it's so good.
Talking of over the top disaster movies, and this is one that didn't make it on my list. It can't be any more over the top than Moonfall. Fucking hell. I mean,
I'll give you that.
That's like 6 producers got into a cabin and were told, you've got to come up with a strong concept. We're going to start shooting it tomorrow. And by the way, we need to spend loads of money on special effects because China's bankrolling this film. So, okay, go and make up something. They went in there with like 10 grams of speed, and that's what they came out with. You know, it's just batshit fucking crazy movie.
Yeah. But it gave the boy from Game of Thrones something to do.
yeah, he got cast. It's only a matter of time before he got cast as a sort of scientist that nobody believed.
a fat geeky scientist. Yeah, it was.
You know, what's your number 10? That was mine. Pandora's mine. What you got?
My number 10 is it's a little bit of a softball. I'm not going to expect many people to have seen this, and Kevin came out in 1996. It's sort of around about that time where we were getting all these movies. And in fact, it's very much like another movie that is on my list. But this movie was Night of the Twisters. It's
I remember that it came out sort of straight to DVD not long after Twister, kind of capitalizing on the back of that.
It kind of does a little bit, but unlike Twister, which is like all bang for your buck and sort of going in with the full on disaster, this is more of a family story. It's got young Devon Sawa, just as I think he'd just done Casper, or he's about to do Casper, and Final Destination was a long way off. You had Bo Duke from the Dukes of Hazzard, just hamming it up like he always does. And it was more about the relationship between the father and son, which is kind of why I always liked it. Didn't prefer it to Twister. God, did I not prefer it to Twister.
Right.
But it's just a nice little movie about how this father and son, who really don't get on, are going to get through this night.
I'll tell you what, I think I've just found a trailer for it. Let me have a quick look at it.
Is this when you put it on and I sit there and go, oh, that looks ropey?
If that's what's going to be the result, I think we should definitely put it on. I think this is like a 1 minute trailer. I might have the wrong film, so if it's the wrong film, call out. But let me. Is it a Robert Richter production? Does that sound familiar?
I don't think so. Could be though. Just slap it on.
Oh, let's have a look anyway. Let's have a look. It'll be entertaining if I've got the wrong film. I mean,
it might be a better film, and I'll go and watch it.
It could be that I've just found an Asylum homage movie, but
no.
Entirely possible. Right, here we go.
Oh God, no, that's not it.
Is this not it? This not it? No? It says Night of the... You sure?
Oh no, it is.
It is? I think this is like a fan-made trailer. Yeah,
they're just going to show that picture. They're going to show that one picture over and over.
I'm going to take the sound out of this because I think that music might not be copyrighted. So this is clearly like a fan-made trailer that someone got some stills and then just did lots of pans. But these are shots from the movie, right?
But that just shows you how good the movie is because somebody went to the effort of making like a still shot video of this movie.
Yeah.
And they've obviously used iMovie to edit the title cards.
Yeah.
Love it, yeah. Night of the Twisters.
I quite like the title card they've done for that.
Oh yeah, you can get them on iMovie. It's like it's free overlays.
I'm not about to give them an editing job or anything, but all right. So Night of the Twisters. So you like that because it was like a small family story. Again, I guess that one probably felt more in the realms of reality, like my number 10.
It definitely does, but it's just a smaller, more contained story about the family. You do have all the shenanigans going on outside the houses and stuff like that, and you do see a lot of it. But it was just, and I like Devon Sawa.
All right. Well,
I mean, not so much now, but he was good back then.
What's he doing now?
The last film I saw him in was Fanatic with John Travolta playing his it was kind of like The Fan with Wesley Snipes and Robert De Niro, way worse. Yeah. And it was directed by the frontman from Limp Bizkit, so that tells you all you need to know.
Let's move on.
Let's do that.
Our number 9 pick. Now I think we've both got this one on our list, and it's also one that I've got the trailer lined up for because the trailer. This is a weird movie. And I'm probably one of the few people in the UK who saw it at the cinema and like films that got a limited release in London that they had no faith were going to do business in whatsoever. Always got chucked on at the Cannon Panton Street where the screens are about the size of my living room. It's an Odeon now and they've refurbished it apparently. But I mean, it's still like watching a film at home.
Yeah,
one of the cinemas had like 12 seats in it or something. It's about 12 was 18 seats. There was another cinema like that used to be where Virgin Oxford Street was, and that was a Canon 5 screen at one point. And I saw Invaders from Mars there for my birthday, the Canon remake, which is one of their few good movies. and it was in it. Shit, you know, it was in a screen with like 20 seats, and you come in, you walk through the door, and the screen's there, and the seats are there, and that's it. But yeah, so this one is Miracle Mile with Anthony Edwards. Well, we're going to have a lot to say about this. I want to show the trailer because I don't think most people are going to have seen this. And just to remind you again, YouTube, I believe this comes under fair use, and we're showing a trailer that's already on YouTube. So I really do think it comes under fair use. Right. Okay. So let's have a look. I'm not going to show the whole trailer because it's quite a long trailer. I've started it a little bit further in, but you can see it for yourself on you know, let's have a look. Here we go.
It was one of those strange nights.
Finally meet the right girl and you blow it.
That could ruin your whole day. In a big way.
The phone box.
It's happening. This is it. This is really it. This is the big one.
This is a joke, right?
It's really
Smoky for Sutherland on the other side.
This can't be true. We'll all be dead if we don't get out of here. Nobody believes this, do they?
funny.
Make a list for me. People who want to bring along.
We gotta get Julie. Who's Julie?
Harry Belafonte.
Who are you? Who are you? Stop and let me off. I don't stop for nothing. Jump! Don't hurt me, man. I got Nakamichi Pioneer. I got everything. If it doesn't happen, I'll tell you. If what doesn't happen, man. I'm dreaming. That's it. I'm dreaming. Y'all ready to go? You the pilot? Hey! Hey, you know anybody who can fly helicopter? Helicopter pilots.
All the helicopter pilot bars are closed.
What's the problem? It's true. Love can be exciting,
Trust me with this.
even terrifying.
Julie!
I love you.
But nothing could prepare you for an experience like this.
What is the true part?
Miracle Mile.
Listen, I'm just a guy who picked up the phone.
I mean, this film, we've got to talk about this. This film is nuts, in a good way, I think. So the premise, now, I've only seen it once, I think, since I saw it at the cinema. So this is all from memory, but the premise is Anthony Edwards meets the girl of his dreams purely by chance. They kind of have a nice lunch date, and that's played by Mare Winningham, who was in another disaster movie called the Panic at Ocean Park or something, about an earthquake and a fun fair. And she gets trapped at the top of a big wheel, and she has to be rescued by Martin Landau. There's a bit of trivia
Of
for
all
you.
people.
So yeah, but she, so they have this sort of date, and then they agree to like meet for a proper date. I think it's either later that night or the evening of
later that day.
late that night. Yeah. And then he's knackered because he's had a long day at work, and he sets his alarm, but there's a power outage. His alarm doesn't go off. She turns up for the date. He's not there, and he wakes up at 1:45, and he should have met her at like 8:00 or something. And he still goes down to the diner where they were supposed to meet. And as he's looking for her at the diner, the phone rings, and the guy on the other end of the phone thinks he's calling his family, and he's telling them to get out now, it's starting, meaning World War III starting. And this is supposed to be some guy in a missile bunker somewhere, knowing that the balloon's gone up. And that's the beginning of the movie. And then it becomes this. I'll tell you what it really reminded me of, and I don't know if you've seen this film as well. There's a really weird Martin Scorsese film set in New York at night with Griffin Duane, where he gets trapped in New York, in downtown Manhattan, and he's trying to meet a girl for a date that he met earlier, Rosanna Arquette. His money flies out the window. I can't remember the name of it. It's the poster is of his head getting screwed on top of a clock. And this film really reminded me of that. And it's, you know, like a guy is lost and he meets all these really odd characters. There's so many actors in that I recognize, you know, who went on to have better careers. The black guy who's actually nicked a load of stuff in the car that he pulls the gun on. He's been in loads of stuff. You've got the B movie king there driving the van that he jumps off, who did loads of Italian B movies. I think he was in like one of the Bronx Warriors or New Barbarians. I think he was in the New Barbarians movie. But yeah, so this is on your list as well, right?
Yeah, I had this super high on my list as well. Like I think this is one of those underrated gem sort of disaster movies that nobody talks about enough. It's funny because I only watched it maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. I had a guest on my show. We were talking about Star Wars comics. He writes Star Wars comics, and we were talking about like our top 5 movies of all time. And he said Miracle Mile, and I'm like, never heard of it. And he said it's got Anthony Edwards, and I was like, oh, I love it. I'll give that a watch.
Yeah,
And, yeah. I think I've watched it maybe 3 or 4 times since because I love. Again, I've just kind of bashed Hollywood for not doing, you know, the subversion at the end of a disaster movie because 9 times out of 10 they survive. This movie is. I mean, I don't want to give spoilers.
It doesn't have a happy ending, does it?
It did come out in '88, so I think spoilers might be okay. But the ending is just so soul destroying.
Yeah.
And you want him to win. You want him to get away, but I loved it. I just think it's such an amazing movie.
So the black actor who's driving the car, because I've just looked him up, and of course I know he is, and I might pronounce his first name wrong, Micheletti Williamson. He's in Heat. He's the driver in
Forrest Gump.
Bubba in Forrest Gump. He's Preston Webb in Law and Order: Organized Crime. You know, was in the Lethal Weapon TV series. He also did Chicago PD, that I'm a massive fan of. He's been in Designated Survivor. A lot of people really rate that show. I couldn't quite get into it. I just didn't buy into the world they created. But he's a cracking actor. So this is, I mean, looking down at his CV, which is absolutely rammed with stuff. I'd love to get him on this show. Yeah, I mean, he'd done quite a bit by the time he did Miracle Mile. That's like his 20th gig, you know?
Yeah.
Main character on Hill Street Blues for 9 episodes. So, God, he was... And he was in Streets of Fire as well, which is I'm a massive Streets of Fire fan. He's one of the band. Did you watch Streets of Fire? Do you know that film?
It's not ringing a bell.
Oh man, I mean, we're going to really go off on a tangent. I'll get onto that, but it's a Walter Hill movie, 1984. It was originally supposed to star Harrison Ford, and if it had done, I think it would have been a massive hit. But they ended up casting an unknown actor called Michael Pare, who sadly just isn't very good. But the other cast members in it are really good, and the music in it is absolutely outstanding. Done by the producer of Meatloaf's stuff. So it's got that kind of... Yeah, that's right. That guy, yeah. And it's got that kind of sound. And it's just like a sort of rock and roll gangster film, but it's just brilliantly done. But we're really going off on a tangent now. But that was... So Miracle Mile was my number 9. We'll mention it when it comes up in your list. What was your number 9?
My number 9 is a post-apocalyptic. It's more of a post-apocalyptic vibe, based on a graphic novel comic book. It's Snowpiercer. By I always get his name mixed up. I always call him Jong Boon-ho, but no, it's Bong Joon-ho, the guy that made Parasite. I think Snowpiercer is just one of those movies that I really went into it expecting nothing. But I saw the cast, and obviously you got Tilda Swinton in there, you got Chris Evans in there, Jamie Bell in there, Ed Harris in there. It's just one of those casts that, how could I not watch this? And I love Snowpiercer because it deals with more the aftermath and how we're going to rebuild. And I think that's super interesting in those movies. It's sort of the thing you don't get to see because normally these movies end with the disaster. But this one's like, we've had the disaster. Let's see how we rebuild. And actually, it turns out the society's worse than the disaster. So,
have you watched the TV series?
I have. I've watched series 1 and 2. I think series 3 is out now. I like it, but it's not as good.
It is different. Television series.
Yeah.
I mean, that's interesting because there's things about the TV series that I prefer
Yeah.
There are some of the characters I prefer, and some of the interpretations of some of the same characters I prefer.
Yeah.
There are some new characters that are in the TV show that are not in the movie that I really like, and vice versa. I love the production design on both of them. I think the production design on both of them is really good, but I think the TV show has more room to maneuver just because of the.
I think that's the thing as well, though. But like, you've got more room to maneuver, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, how much room do we need, and when does it just become filler? That's always my problem with.
I think that they should have called. I felt it was a 2-season show.
Yeah,
because eventually there's going to be a riot, and then eventually the train's going to get taken over, and that's kind of really the end of your movie. But then it's okay, we're going to establish a new order now, and now there's another train, and yada yada yada. And I know what you mean. It felt like, okay, can we string it out for another season? I mean, I had one of the actresses from the TV show on my channel.
Nice.
So Andrea Ware, her name is, and she was also in Van Helsing, the TV show in Van Helsing. If you were a fan of that, she got to run around, fire an M60 with a big box of ammo on the end of it, and do lots of weapons training. So she had a cracking time. But she's one of the jackboots in Snowpiercer, and she started out as a glorified extra basically, but they liked her so much. Gradually, they gave her a bit more to do, but she was on it like pretty much every week for every season until her character comes to some kind of diabolical end in season 3, which I haven't seen yet. I have also read the graphic novel as much as I could get away with before they chucked me out of the comic shop. I haven't got it. And I do have quite a few graphic novels, but
it's a great graphic. It's a great graphic, and Bong Joon-ho, he's pretty faithful to it,
right?
But also takes a bit of license as well. So
I love the scene in the movie. I love the scene with the infrared, and when it suddenly all goes dark, and then suddenly, all those goggles appear. That's a great scene. It's so well directed, and I mean, Deborah Chow could take a note on how to direct an action scene.
I'm gonna be perfectly honest, and Deborah Chow could take a lot of notes on how to direct something, because what she's doing right now is ass. Yeah,
I mean, look, I'm a director myself. I get it. As any director will tell you, you've got an idea, and it's never what you get on the screen. Sometimes it's better than you expected. Sometimes not. It's always different from what you expected.
Yeah,
but there's no justification for some of the crap that's on Kenobi right now. It's
there definitely isn't.
The writing is so poor. The action choreography is so poor. There's so many things that just don't make any sense. I called out that Reaver storyline, by the way, in episode 1.
That was like so obvious, and
I
can't believe they tried to play it off like some sort of mystery, and it was like, you know what, the audience isn't dumb.
No.
We've already figured this out. Just find a better way to reveal, or don't even reveal it. Just find a better way to tell this story, or just don't tell the story at all. I really don't care.
And lightsabers don't kill you anymore.
No,
by the way,
they don't. Yeah,
I mean, honestly,
and it looks like he's been done twice. Once as a youngling and once as an adult.
And I mean, that story could have worked in the sense that that's her backstory, but basically what we do is we captured and kept some of the children, and we turned them evil, and just keep her evil. Don't make her have, because that revenge story makes no sense, because Vader would have, I can sense what you're up to.
But he did, because he tells her in episode 5, he says, I knew what you were doing all along. And
all along, whatever. Even though that, fuck off.
You're Darth Vader, you're Anakin Skywalker. Like, you wouldn't let this idiot run around doing these things. And her plan made no sense. I'm going to catch Kenobi to get to Vader, although I'm already in Vader's pocket anyway. It just made no sense. It was like, come on.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that show at all. There's a couple of good things in it, but anyway,
I'll give it that. There has been a couple of moments where I've sat down and went, that's my Star Wars, but then there's been too many moments where I've been like, that's somebody else's Star Wars.
Yeah, well, somebody else's fucking nightmare is what it is.
Yeah.
You know what we should do? Let's get back on track. We should do another stream about all the new Star Wars shows. What's been good, what's been bad? Because I've got a lot to say about that.
They're terrible. They're all terrible. They're not all terrible.
I quite like Rogue One, actually. I quite like Rogue One. I've got a lot of time for Rogue One.
Rogue One was an excellent movie. Does it need a TV series? I don't know.
Oh no! Well,
because that's the next thing they're doing. They're doing a Cassian Andor, and
I had an actor from Andor on the show the other week, Charlie Swift Parker, and all he could tell us was that the white sets were very hard to clean. That was all we got out of him because of his NDAs. So I said, "Well, we're going to have you back then, aren't we? So you can tell us, because he wouldn't even tell me how many times he went fitted for his costume. Honestly,
I can't tell you that stuff, man. They can't tell you.
No.
I'm the raps.
All right, so I'm not going to talk too much about my choice number 8 but my number 8 is a bit of an obvious one. But my number 8 is Twister, which has got a good friend of mine in it, and I'm going to say that Twister was released in, I want to say, sort of early 90s.
It was 1996.
1996.
Yeah.
And it's got, among other people, I think, unless I'm mistaken, I'm pretty sure my friend Donal Logue had a role in it. But
yeah, he's in there. Yeah, he's one of the RV crew, isn't he?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I really liked about it was the action. The action was groundbreaking at the time, and I remember in the cinema going, "Wow, that's clever." Which is always a good thing. So it's one of those movies that was like, there are several movies for me that are benchmarks in transitions of effects, a level of effects in cinema, Jurassic Park being one, Star Wars being another obvious one. And then, Independence Day probably took things up a notch, I think. I could have put that on here because I guess you could class that as a disaster movie, but for me, it's more of a sci-fi epic. But so it's not on my list. It probably should be because I guess I could have put it on. But in fact, if I could put Independence Day on, it would be here over Twister because it's one of my favorite films. It's a proper guilty pleasure of mine. I think actually we're probably both thinking of Philip Seymour Hoffman. So I don't think Donald was in it, but
Seymour Hoffman's definitely in it. Yeah.
Seymour Hoffman was in it. Another actor I really rate who was in it in one of the smaller roles was Jeremy Davies. Anthony Rapp was in it. Jake Busey, son of Gary. Alan Ruck from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, who's an actor. I really rate him. He's so good in the thing with Brian Cox with the family that all hate each other. What's it called? It's a massively popular show. I'm having a brain.
Succession.
Yeah. I was going to say I'm having a brain fart.
Gangbusters right now.
And of course, the late great Bill Paxton.
What a shit day that was, by the way. When that news came out.
I was absolutely gutted. And he was really good friends with Donal Logue. I think that's where I'm thinking of the connection. And I wrote to Donal as soon as the news broke. And I said, "Oh, mate, I'm really sorry." And he just sent me a message back saying, "I'm totally heartbroken," because they were so tight. They shared a flight to a movie that was filming out in, I think it was Vietnam or somewhere like Malaysia or somewhere like that. You can bond with an actor on a 6-hour flight to Malaysia, believe me.
I bet.
But yeah, for Twister, for those people that haven't seen it, lots of tornadoes and cows flying through the air and tornado chaser people and some really interesting visual effects. I might watch it now and think it's not so great. Directed by Jan de Bont, who directed Speed famously. Also, it was a very notorious, difficult shoot, and I know that the production crew did tools down on a number of occasions, and a lot of people got fired, and it was not a good shoot for a lot of people. But guess what matters is what's on the screen at the end of the day.
Exactly.
But that's my number 8. Was Twister in your list anywhere?
Twister is Twister is my quintessential disaster movie. That is the disaster movie I go to on a rainy day in Berwick.
Okay.
When it's howling a gale outside, I put Twister on. It's usually on ITV2, every other Sunday.
Every other Sunday, yeah.
it is. It's either that or Jurassic Park 3. But I am a massive Twister fan. It sits as my number one, to be fair. And the best thing about that is like the story with that for me as well. I remember it was my birthday. My birthday's in August, so like big summer blockbuster movies.
Nice.
So, I went to the cinema to see this movie that everybody was raving about, everybody was talking about, and I get to the cinema, every screen is packed, sold out. Guess what? You're not going to see Independence Day because it came out the same year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And then the guy turned around, the guy in the foyer turns around and he's like, there's this other film that's on that a few people have come out saying they really enjoyed it. So that night, instead of Independence Day on my birthday, we went to see Twister. I bloody loved it. I fell in love with that movie instantly. And then 2 days later, one of my cousins took me to see Independence Day. And to this day, I maintain Twister is a better movie than Independence Day.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you there, but
I remember walking out of Independence Day and being like, I'm so glad I saw Twister on my birthday.
When I came out of Independence Day, there were two movies, funny enough, both by the same filmmakers, that made me reminded me of watching Star Wars.
Yeah,
and one of them was Stargate, and the other one was Independence Day.
I give you that.
I just watched Stargate again for the first time in forever. I think it was a director's cut of it, and the pacing of it seems a bit wonky.
It's jarring. It's
it is, isn't it? The structure of the script is a bit great story, great characters. Still loved the movie, still liked it, but I was sort of finding it was a bit all over the place. But I probably need to watch it again when I wasn't so knackered, because I was absolutely cream cracker when I stuck it on. So my number 8 was Twister, which you've revealed is further down your list. Don't tell us the number, but you've told us all the stories, which is good. What's your number 8 though?
My number 8 is a bunch of movies. It was a bunch of movies that I stayed away from. It's a franchise. They are all literally the same movie, so I couldn't not just say all of them.
Go on.
A couple of years ago, I interviewed a producer from Asylum Films called David.
These are like Gale Force 9, Gale Force 8, or whatever.
So David Michael Latt was a producer on a TV show called Z Nation, which I loved, about zombies. It's kind of like a really schlocky version of Walking Dead, blood everywhere, like just amazing. And he saw one of my reviews for the TV show, and he was like, would you have me come on and speak to you about the movie, about the TV show? I was like, absolutely. Come to find out, it's actually also the main producer of all Asylum movies, but of specifically Sharknado. Now, I was staying away from Sharknado because it just looked awful. Tara Reid, Ian Ziering, this is not going to be a good movie. And then I sat down and I watched the first 3 back to back to back, and I thought, these films are so awful. I'm really enjoying them.
Isn't that the series that's got Lorenzo Lamas in it? Who's been married about 7 times or something.
You know what you're getting from an Asylum Productions film. You know what's coming, and Sharknado is awful. It's so awful, but it's so awful that it's actually quite fun, and you end up enjoying yourself. And I don't know why, but you do. But yeah, I don't need to talk about the plot of that. It's literally just tornadoes and sharks get caught up in them, and they're just bonkers, mad fun.
Yeah, I've seen. Isn't there one called Giant Shark versus Croctopus or something like that?
That's not one of the Sharknadoes, but that is an Asylum movie.
Yeah, well, I've got. Yeah, and then there was also one called the Bermuda Tentacles or something, which I've also.
That's what they do. Like at first, when the guy came on, I was sitting there like, "This guy is nuts. What am I doing talking to him?" But then he started like explaining like how they put these movies together, and I'm like, you know what? If you can sit in a room with 10 other people and come up with that, I'm gonna watch your movie and I'm gonna have a look at it. And 9 times out of 10, they're terrible, but every now and then you find one that's so bad it's good.
I get that one. I think it was called the Bermuda Tentacles. I really liked it. It was like this sort of cool monster movie, and they've got a set of a destroyer that they've used in about 20 of their films. You know, and because it was another opportunity for them to use that. So yeah, I was up for that. I never expected the Sharknado series to appear on this top 10 list, but I feel it's I feel it's earned its place.
That's why
they've made so many of them.
I put out a tweet earlier about coming on and all that, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure Lance's picks will be pretty classy, but if you come on, you'll get some fun ones from me.
Listen, I've got some B movies coming up, so we'll see about that. But yeah. I haven't seen enough of the Sharknado films to qualify. I've seen 2 or 3 of them. I gave one of them away at my movie quiz one time, and
that's the best thing to do with them, really.
Well, indeed.
Just give them away.
Number 7. I've got a trailer for this one that we can watch because the trailer for it is parts of the trailer are fucking hilarious. So this is my number 7, which is, I guess, out of all the ones I've picked, it's also an action movie. It's got a proper big name cast. I think it was made in, I want to say 76. I haven't got the IMDb to hand now, but let's have a look at the trailer, and also let's have a laugh at the trailer, because it's one of these ones that's got like these 70s voiceover thing going on.
Oh, you can't beat them.
Yeah, man, and it's proper over the top.
They don't make trailers like they used to.
Well, let's check this one out. So so this is the Cassandra Crossing. I was right, it is 76. Listen to the guy doing the narration in the first half of this.
A 1,000 passengers sealed on a train. Why? Armed guards in spacesuits. Why?
In spacesuits.
Forbidden
Why?
to leave the train alive. Why? 1,000 human beings on a journey to nowhere with one-way tickets to hell.
And that was like a spoiler in the first 30 seconds because they show you one of the main characters getting killed.
We're going to die. The children.
Good old Richard Harris.
The girl over there. What
Jennifer, stop it.
Katerina.
Stop it.
But how can
Stop it.
Send a plane to warn them. Put flares on the track. Give them a signal.
Any passengers attempting to escape from that train must be stopped.
1,000 lives are at stake here, including you and your men.
Come in, Dr. Shenry. Hello. Hello.
Good old Burt Lancaster.
Crossing.
Cassandra Crossing.
I want this train stopped.
Yeah, there you go, Martin Sheen.
Oh!
Check out that polar neck.
Okay.
There's the marbles right there. Martin Sheen.
Look at those collars.
Sophia Loren. Richard Harris. Martin Sheen. O.J. Simpson. Lionel Stander.
Yeah, I know.
Ingrid Thulin. Lee Strasberg. Burt Lancaster as Mackenzie. Ava Gardner as Nicole.
I love the way now they're telling you who they're playing, but not everybody.
The most spectacular suspense film of the year. The Cassandra Crossing.
I know you must see me as some sort of a monster,
You had every option wired.
but it's my job and I do it well.
Anyway, I don't want to give away any more. But oh man, I mean this movie was one of those films that was like on every Christmas when I was growing up. You know, it would always be one of the 20 films we're showing this holiday season. Cut a long story short, these guys try and steal something from a lab. It's never quite clear who they are, whether they're agents of a foreign power. I don't think that they're hippies out to do some kind of protest because, you know, they've got guns with silencers and shit. And they go in the wrong place. A little firefight breaks out. They're covered in this some kind of biochemical agent. One of them dies fairly early on. The other one makes it onto this train. and virus starts breaking out on the train. The scene at the beginning that you see when all the men in spacesuits, have turned up. They seal off the train, come on board their armed guards. Richard Harris is kind of a scientist who's on the scene with Sophie Loren and various other characters. And pretty soon they realize that the train is being diverted over something called the Cassandra Crossing, which is approximately 90 minutes of screen time away. And everybody's saying, we can't go over that bridge. It's unsafe. They're going to try and kill us all. And actually, that's what's happening. They're going to contain this virus by, which, by the way, makes no sense. We're going to contain this virus by sending this train onto a bridge where it's going to fall into a river, which may or may not kill everybody. And then, bodies might float down the river. And I don't really see how that's containing it. It would have just been better if they just got everybody off the train and just killed them. But shot them all and then burned all the bodies. It's a big plot hole in the movie. This very elaborate plan of, well, there's a knackered bridge in this part of Poland. We're gonna send you there. That aside, it's a great fun B movie. You've got the big characters. There's some really good action scenes because they try to take over the train, and that's all really well handled. It's played very straight. It's played, you could tell from the acting, it's played very serious. Yeah. Lee Strasberg plays all of his scenes like he's going for an Oscar. It's a bit of a controversial New York drama teacher, if you know anything about him, who messed with Marilyn Monroe's head. But that's a whole other stream we could do about that. Have you seen it? Have you seen it?
I've not seen the Cassandra Crossing, but watching that trailer, I absolutely want to.
I think you can get, I think like somebody like either Arrow Films or Shout Factory, I think, are doing a Blu-ray of it now.
That seems like an
and I'll tell you who directed it. It's directed by George P. Cosmatos, who directed Rambo 2.
Oh, nice.
And by the way, the director of Rambo 3, the Afghanistan one, is coming on. I met him yesterday. He's coming on my channel soon.
You mentioned.
Yeah,
not my favorite Rambo, but it's up there.
I actually like it. I think it's a good movie.
Rambo 3 is good. Rambo 3 is good, but I'm a sucker for the first one.
Yeah, the first one is really gritty and very dark, and the second two are kind of more straight Hollywood action films. But I like the third one because I like all the Russian kit. I like the helicopters from Red Dawn that they've clearly borrowed, and I don't like the ending. I don't like the chicken tank versus helicopter scene. Again, we're jumping onto. We need to save that for the top 10 action films, because that's another one I'm going to do. So, but that it's a good movie. It's played very straight, so there's quite a few winceable bits, but it's a big, ambitious film. It's got some really good miniature work at the end. But the crash does happen. Some people survive, some people don't. I'm not going to say how, but the people who don't survive, and you see the train going off, you got like these they shot these scenes where iron girders come through carriages and go through the middle of people's stomachs. And it's pretty horrific stuff when you think about it. And it's so weird as well, because they shoot the scenes where the passengers are just sort of sitting in the carriages, and suddenly these beams are coming through, like they're just on their way to work, and nothing's happened to them up until that point, apart from all the gun battles on the train and plates being put up on the windows, and just suddenly very surreal, like everything's normal again, and now we're just about to crash. But so that's my number 7. What's yours?
My number 7 is we're deviating into monster territory.
I've got I think I've got a sort of monsterish one. Go on anyway. That's allowed, I think. I said, Godzilla would have been allowed. So
yeah, I think Godzilla definitely is allowed, and this is kind of Godzilla's like redheaded stepchild cousin, I guess. This is Matt Reeves's movie Cloverfield. This was the first time I got to see Matt Reeves make a movie. The first film I saw that he made. He's made some absolutely outstanding films since, Planet of the Apes trilogy and Batman movies. Just one of these directors who's just absolutely gangbusters right now. But to be fair, I think Cloverfield is, with the whole way that they do it with the video cameras and the phones and all that, it's not the first time we'd ever seen it. We've seen it before, but
no,
it was an interesting way of doing that kind of monster movie. so that you never really get a true glimpse. And when you do, it's for a quick second, and it's pretty shocking. But yeah,
yeah, I saw that at the cinema, and I agree with you. I think the best monster movies, or the way that a monster's handled, are always the ones where you see as little of the creature as possible, and usually there's a reveal at the end of the film. That's what happened in Jaws.
Yeah.
And the first time
that wasn't necessarily through choice, though.
no, because they were like, shit, this rubber shark is fucking awful. The less we show of it, the better. And then that turned out just to be a good call. It was like a happy coincidence. I mean, you could argue that Jaws is a disaster movie, and in some ways it is, but it's a creature feature which wasn't an identifiable genre in the 70s. In the 70s, it would have been considered a disaster film. I like Cloverfield. There's some things about it I distinctively remember, like the creature almost has nits that it scrapes off its body that are effectively smaller creatures that then attack the infantry in the subway, and then they also then infect people. That whole scene was really well done. There's another scene where they come across two buildings, one of which has crashed onto the other, and they're kind of one's holding the other one up. Do you remember that? I've lost your audio, Kev. Lost your audio. Why can't I hear you? That's weird.
Yeah, you hear me now?
Oh, yeah. There we go. I think the monster from Cloverfield was chewing your wires.
But no, like I just, for some reason, that movie, like I wouldn't say I hate found footage, but if you're going to do a found footage movie, you've got to do it well. And I think Chronicle came out round about the same time, and that was done super well, but that was like a superhero found footage movie, which I just fell in love with. And then Cloverfield came round, and it makes it all that more terrifying, all that more surreal, because you only get to see a glimpse of it from somebody's phone, which is like, holy crap, like, I can't even see this thing.
Yeah, because it's the annoying guy at the party who wants to film everyone.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
You instantly hate him straight away.
And he's also, there's a bird, isn't he? He's trying to cop off with. There's some girl he's trying to, and she finds him annoying. And I mean, actually, it's a sign of how good the movie is that there's so many scenes in it that I can remember quite distinctly, like that when they all go to the bridge at one point. And then,
you get the shot looking up. Yeah.
And that's where the Ian Ziering lookalike is kind of ahead of everyone else. The slightly good-looking guy, blonde hair. Hey guys, and he sort of turns around, and then next thing you see, like, don't you see the big sort of tentacle come over the bridge and demolish the? That's really clever. And they go up to the roof of the party to see what's happening, and there's the head of the Statue of Liberty in the middle of the Hudson.
Just amazing, man.
Yeah, that's such
a cool movie.
It's a lot of good stuff. I've got a vague recollection that it kind of ends, with that kind of somebody gets attacked and the camera's knocked over, and
they do that a couple of times, which it's probably one of my pet peeves of that movie, is that they go to that well a little bit too often, where it's like kind of the camera gets knocked over, we cut to black, and I watched another movie recently which is sort of like kind of found footagey, and that sort of it pissed me off a little bit. I'm like, come up with a better way to transition this, and let's just not cut the camera to black.
What was the one you watched recently that was more kind of?
It was a dash cam, the new one from HOOKINGS.
No, I know the film you mean.
It's a decent little film. It's a really good little film, and I think they've done well with it. But I don't like this. Like, I'm not sure how I'm going to cut into this next bit. So she drops the camera,
right?
And it's like, come on, like again. Yeah. But it's a good film.
Well, that was number 7.
Yeah.
So Cloverfield, great choice. Do you know what? If I'd thought about that, actually, I might have put that on. It's not an immediate it's not one that immediately comes to mind, is it? It's
not really. No, it was.
And a lot of people haven't seen it as well. There's a lot of people that haven't seen that movie.
And now we've got we got 2 or 3 sequels that just. I mean, the Cloverfield sequels for me, they are not Cloverfield movies. They're movies that somebody made, and then somebody went, you know what, we could put this in the Cloverfield
universe. It's like,
because they're not.
No,
they really aren't.
I mean, I if they were going to make another film about somebody else going through the same journey of that night, and you see their journey,
yes,
I could buy into that. At the end of the day, it's not going to be original, but I'm quite happy to take that view of that world. But an old man who locks his family in a basement somewhere, and then later on you say, it's because of that thing that happened.
Exactly.
Whatever. You could say, it's also set in The Walking Dead. It could be set anywhere.
Yeah.
That was just a marketing bullshit nonsense. All right, so number 6. Let me click on the appropriate banner here. There we go. So my number 6 is another old one, like me. I'm showing my age, my choices here. So now this film, I was really into it as a kid because it was, I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, we had a children's television program called Screen Test, which was the purview to the Lance's yearly movie quiz. And they showed groups of kids on teams, clips of films, and they had to answer questions about that.
Oh,
and on one of the first episodes of Screen Test I can ever remember watching, there was a clip of this movie. And the movie starred George Segal, who's a fantastic actor who recently passed away. I think we lost him earlier this year, I think. And it was either earlier this year or last year. And he's being ordered around an amusement park by an extortionist on a radio. And he's, because you've got to go here, and then you've got to pick up this item, and you've got to go here, and you've got to pick up this item, and the arrangement, and he drops off the money for this guy, and the arrangement is, when you've dropped off the money, you're going to tell me where the bomb is. And it's this great line in the movie, which was a great bit that they then cut on the clip on Screen Test, and I thought, I've got to see this. You said you'd tell me where the bomb is. I'll tell you where the bomb is, Harry. You're holding it, and it's in the radio that he's been given to pick up, and he's holding the bomb. And he said, don't drop it. I'm watching you. If you drop it, I'll know you have, and I'll set it off. And that was just a really clever piece of writing. And then not long after that, that film came on TV. And that film was the 1977 Rollercoaster. And now I found a short trailer for it here. It's only a minute. So let's have a quick look at it. It'll give you an idea of some of it. And again, I'm not sure if it's one you've seen. It's what I think it's just about to get a Shout factory release, or it's just had one.
Nice.
So here we go.
Tonight might not be such a good night to take a ride.
I think this is the TV spot trailer.
Money, Harry.
This is the same guy as well. Not a good night. Why?
Tonight might be the night he turns this carnival into a graveyard.
The payment will be $1 million. We're to fill it with unmarked bills.
Richard Widmark there.
To have it with him.
Tell your friends I'm about to give them another reminder of how vulnerable they are.
Time is running out. It may be too late to stop the nightmare.
Could have planted some.
Call him. Clear out the passengers.
An unforgettable ride of terror starring George Segal, Richard Widmark, Timothy Bottoms, and Henry Fonda in the thrilling tradition of airport and earthquake. Don't be afraid to scream. It may be the last sound you'll ever hear.
So great. That's proper 70s cheese right there. Don't be afraid to scream. It might be the last sound you'll ever hear. But
George Segal, man, he totally, he had a career. He had a great career. And when you go back and look at some of his stuff early on, what an actor he was.
Yeah. One of my favorite war films is The Bridget Remagen. Which I think is massively underrated, and he's cracking in it. He's with him and Ben Gazzara in the same unit. One's the sergeant, one's the captain or lieutenant or whatever. And then you've got Bradford Dillman's in that. And these are all stars of this era as well.
Yeah.
But Timothy Bottom's got to give a special shout out to. He's fantastic in this film. He's basically he's going around and he's extortioning theme parks, threatening to blow up their roller coasters. He's bombed two already, one of which is the opening scene of the movie. And it's that bombing scene is really well done. It's enough to put you off Alton Towers for life, let me tell you. And the film's very clever. They don't reveal Timothy Bottoms. You don't see his face until quite a way into the film. You hear his voice, and he plays this. It's almost like this same character could be a serial killer during the day when he's not bombing roller coasters. You know, that might be his day job, because he comes across as this like cold, calculating man. You don't find out much about his backstory, which is a shame. That for me was the only thing that's missing, but that also makes it all the more creepy, you know.
Yeah.
And then he has this weird symbiotic relationship with George's character, Harry, and sort of starts taunting him a little bit. I think it's a really, really good movie. I'm actually going to get the Blu-ray of that when I can afford it, because, you know, there's a winter field ball coming that's about £2,000. So Blu-rays have got to be a bit on hold at the moment. But yeah, Rollercoaster, mate, if you haven't seen it, you should. It's a good watch. There's a really funny rock band in a theme park singing a song called Big Boy at one point that makes you feel like you're watching Spinal Tap, which is what's your number 6?
My number 6, keeping with the sort of semi-cheese of back in the day, is Airplane. I mean, there's no way this one's going to be on my list. I am, again, just a huge, huge fan of Airplane. I don't know how many times I've watched this film. Quotable as hell. Like, it's a rip-off of, I believe, 2 original movies.
Airport.
Zero Hour and Airport, 1975?
Airport, yeah. The first one was 75, and there were 4. I think there were 4 Airport movies, one of which nearly made it on my list.
Which I've never seen those movies, but I have seen on YouTube where there's like a side-by-side comparison of Airplane, and they pretty much just lifted it word for word with the odd gag. I think it's probably my most quoted movie of all time, just in life. You know, like
really?
Oh, definitely. Just like, you know, please don't call me Shirley. Like that's it's a classic. Was it whenever somebody offers me a cup of coffee at work and you'll be like, no, I take it black like my men. You know, just lines like that are just unbelievably amazing and quotable, and that film's just up there. Interestingly, I tried to watch it with my wife a little while back because I found out she hadn't seen Airplane. You know, she's 40 years old, she's never seen Airplane. And I was like, right, let's sit down and watch it. And I'll shit you not, Lance, right? Shit you not. Didn't crack a smile.
I mean, that's interesting. I remember when the second one came out and we rented them together. Me and my friend Paul Wilkins used to go and rent 3 or 4 movies every Saturday. Airplane 2 had literally come out that day. We didn't see it at the cinema. And I said, oh, let's rent it out. And that's the one with the space shuttle on there.
Yeah.
And that was in my list originally, but I took it out. But I found the second one was way funnier than the first one. I think a lot of the humor in the first one hasn't dated that well.
Oh, definitely. Definitely not.
But then if she hated the first one, she's not going to want to watch the second one. So you're kind of screwed on that, buddy. I'm conscious of the time because we've been rambling, so I probably should crack the whip a bit harder on our list. But are you okay for time? You're all right in the minute?
Yeah, man, I'm fine. I'm totally fine.
All right, good.
But yeah, that was just. I love that movie, and who doesn't love Airplane? And if anybody says they don't like Airplane, they're a goddamn liar.
You've got to question their mental faculties, really. I mean, by the way, for anybody that doesn't know, it's a straight up comedy. It's a spoof of airplane disaster movies, and then Airport was a very famous book, a best-selling novel that was written by the same guy that wrote Hotel. Hotel was turned into a television series in the 80s. Always had big guest stars on it and things like that. and Airplane was turned into a series of movies, or Airport, sorry. You had Airport 75, Airport 77, and then
I think.
there were four. I think there were four. There was Airport. There was Airport 75, which was the one about the little plane crashing into the big plane. Airport 77 was the plane crashed into the water with terrorists on board, went under the water. That's my favorite one. And then there was Airport 79 that got changed to Airport 80 because it was made in 79 but got released in 80. And then they felt that because it had Concorde in it, Concorde was a symbol of the 80s. So, and that's like an action movie.
So none of them went into space.
Not yet, but maybe that's Tom Payton's next film. Who knows?
You never know. You never know.
I could write one. I quite enjoy the Airport movies. I need to rewatch them. I was going to rewatch Airport 77 for this stream, but I ran out of time. But
I've always wanted to check them out on the basis of Airplane, but like I don't know if I could then watch Airplane the same.
I would. I mean, a lot of people say it's not that great, but I would recommend that you watch the one where the plane sinks, because I think that one's really clever, and I love the miniature work in it. Anything with miniatures in, I always like. And actually, I've got a Meet the Model Makers stream coming up. You're going to love that. I've got these guys that build like massive Thunderbird scratch kits, and they build them like studio scaled and exactly the same way they were built for the studio. And so it's going to just basically be a stream of lots of people holding pretty toys up.
Who doesn't love that?
Oh, I know, right? So number 5. So that was Airplane, straight up comedy that we've got. I guess you could say we've got 2 comedies in our list with the Sharknado series. Number 5 for me, which might also be on your list somewhere, is Armageddon with Bruce Willis.
Yeah. It was an obvious choice, Armageddon. It's got to be on there.
So that came out the same year as Godzilla, and Godzilla absolutely tanked at the box office.
Yeah.
And they were rivals for the crown of the summer blockbusters. And I think, if I remember rightly, at the beginning of Armageddon, there's a scene where a load of small fragments of asteroid hit the Earth and cause various damage to buildings. And one of the things that happens is they come cascading through a Godzilla toy store and smash it. And they shot that especially because the creators of Godzilla made some kind of derogatory comment, and there was a bit of a spat, I think. I don't know, I can't remember, but I think there was some kind of spat between them in some magazines. There was no social media back then. But this is basically Bruce Willis and a load of oil riggers going into space to stop and blow up a meteor from coming to Earth. And there was a spate of other films that were of a similar vein. You had Deep Core, was it
Deep Impact?
Deep Impact, and then there was one about going into the Earth's core as well.
Yeah, the core.
So you had
Hilary Swank,
the core was nonsense.
It was tear gas. It was like let's dig into the Earth's core so we can restart it. I mean, within 10 minutes, I was like, I'm out.
Yeah, I was bored. I remember, but Armageddon, I went to see it with my dad. I think was it 96 or was it earlier?
98, I believe. 98.
I just remember I went to see it with my dad, and we saw it at the Odeon Leicester Square, because whenever I come down and visit my dad, you're right, it was 98. It's just before I moved back to London. No, just after I moved back to London. I moved back in 97, that's right. And I remember my dad turning to me. This was after the Russian had been recovered from the space station, and it had all blown up and everything. He turned to me and went, "It's very loud." And I said, "Of course it's loud, Dad. It's like an action thing, It's very loud." And they really had pumped up the sound, and it was. But it's a fun film though, isn't it?
It is. It's a fun film. It's a nuts film. It's Michael Bay at his absolute best. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a Michael Bay apologist. Like, I don't love all of his movies, but I know what I'm getting when I sit down to watch a Michael Bay movie, and I'm not getting a Francis Ford Coppola movie. I know that. So I'm already sold before I even sit down, but Armageddon is 100% like just his wheelhouse Ultimate Disaster. Does he do it as well as Roland Emmerich? Maybe not, but he's up there. And this film, I mean, Christ, we're talking about 1998, and you've got Bruce Willis in there, you've got Billy Bob Thornton in there, Ben Affleck, Liv Tyler, Will Patton, Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi, yeah.
The entire cast. Peter Stormare, Owen Wilson, Michael Clark Duncan, another one that
Jason Isaacs. Jason Isaacs is in it.
Just what a cast.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, try and get all of that cast now.
Yeah, you wouldn't. I went to see a screening of Soldier, the Kurt Russell movie.
Yeah.
Actually quite an underrated film in my opinion.
Definitely.
And he was there and he talked about the film afterwards, which was lovely. And I got to chat to him a bit, and he said that it was such a bizarre experience because he did Soldier and Armageddon straight after each other. I can't remember which way round. And he said on Soldier, Kurt Russell was there every day, whether he was in the shot or not. He was always there standing for the other actors to feed their lines to. If it was the other actors close up, Kurt Russell was there. And Jason Isaacs was like, oh, this is so nice. You know, I'm not used to somebody sort of being there for all my shots. And he said, I'm getting paid $5,000 a day. Of course I'm going to be here. So he kind of went from that extreme to Armageddon, where he was working, you know, Bruce Willis and all the rest. And he said that set was just like battle of the egos. And he said if somebody wasn't in the shot, they weren't there. It was see, I'm back to my 9-berth trailer. I'll see you later. They weren't there. So he said, Jason said all that scene where he's talking about, you know, the Roadrunner thrust move with Billy Bob Thornton or whatever, and the science stuff. I think there's a scene where he's talking the science stuff. Yeah. He said, if you can see me in the shot and no one else, there's no one else there except the crew.
That's mental.
I know. And I just thought, I'm sure those people must have been on a similar feat. It's an interesting, different approach to work ethic. And I get it that some people, you know, maybe if they did 3 films in a row like that, they figure that's all that they need to do. But I respect the Kurt Russell work ethic there.
They've said that over the years about Kurt Russell. I've heard that a few times on films where, like, he is there. Like, if he's in the movie, he's in the movie. You know, like he's always on set, and that is a great work ethic. It's the way it should be.
I agree completely. He's on my list of people to work with. That window's rapidly closing because neither of us are getting any younger. Was your number 5 by any chance? Was it Armageddon as well, or what did you have?
Armageddon was my next one, but we can put it there, and I can move on to.
I'll tell you what. Well, let's both put it at. Let's both put Armageddon for number 5. Then we're cheating a little bit. But, so that brings us on to number 4. You do your number 4 first. What you got?
I think we're on 5.
Oh, is it? No, 5 was Armageddon. Well, 5. My 5 was Armageddon. Your 5 was something else.
All right, okay.
But you said you're going to switch it over. So your 4 was Armageddon. So that's gone to 5. This is complicated now.
No, you're right. Yeah.
So what was your number 5 that we're now listing as your number 4?
Daylight.
I know it. I watched it recently.
It's amazing. It's Sylvester Stallone stuck in a tunnel with a bunch of whiny bastards. He's going to try and save them all. I think it's like there's a gas pipe or a gas mains that explodes, and then it collapses both sides of the tunnel. You've got a cast of relatively unknowns, most of them relatively unknown at that point.
95?
Yeah. Apart from Viggo Mortensen, the future king, he's in there. I love Daylight. It's just stupid disaster movie, and I can't help but every time I watch it just brim. Like when you're sitting, you're watching something, you've just got this smile on your face, and you don't really know why.
Right.
That is one of those movies for me. It's definitely one of those movies. I love Daylight, and Stallone's great in it.
I've liked all. I haven't seen all the Sharknado films, but I've liked all of your choices up until now.
You not like Daylight?
I went to see this on Empire Screen 1. I think it was Boxing Day of 95. It had just come out. That's when it was released in the UK. It was one of they do Boxing Day release usually of something. And And I like disaster movies, hence why we're doing this stream. And I was really G'd up for this. And I saw the trailer. The trailer looked good. You know, fuel truck explodes in a tunnel. Tunnel's trapped at both ends. Sylvester Stallone's family's in there. He has to kind of go in through an air vent to get them out and all the rest of it. The first 25 minutes of it are great, right? It's like, but then after that, it's like the writers were like, right, they're stuck in this tunnel now. What do we do with them? And they didn't know what to do with the people. And then there was this whole crap scene where they broke into some old church, which there's just kind of no way they would have been there. And
yeah,
and they sort of ended up going through these little tunnels and things. But none of that for me, none of that section of the movie made sense.
I can see
that section of the movie. I just didn't believe, and I could just tell the writers got stuck, and that was the best they came up with. And I was like, no, I just, yeah. So I actually think the whole film would have worked better if the whole thing had just stayed in the tunnel, and gradually they got further and further out. But other different things happened. Different bits of it fell down. Different bits of it flooded. Whatever, it just, yeah. For me, that didn't work. And the funny thing was, I remember being annoyed about it, and I knew I was going to do. In fact, that was the movie that made me want to do a top 10 disaster. Not at the time, but recently, I decided to watch it again to see. Sometimes when you got distance from these things, and I'm a bit more forgiving now that I'm a filmmaker. I'm not so hard on these people. But I watched it again recently, and I was like, no, I'm even more disappointed this time. That's not good. So. Yeah, so that for me didn't work. Sylvester Stallone did an interview about it where he mentioned it recently, and I quote, Stallone said, "Daylight was a great story on paper that we thought was going to work out really well. It didn't."
Yeah.
And he
I think
wasn't.
you can probably say that a lot about Stallone's films.
Well, yeah, I mean, Stop the Mum or I'll Shoot or whatever that one was.
What was the gambling cowboy one? What was Maverick? Like, come on, man, and Oscar or something like that. Like he's had some crap movies, to be fair.
I saw Oscar at the cinema in America. Boy, did I regret that choice.
What I would say as well is I don't think Daylight. I feel sorry for you having seen it in the cinema. It's definitely a sit and watch it on ITV2 movie. Absolutely.
Well, it was massive. It was my favorite screen, Empire Screen 1, back in the day when they showed the laser show, before each movie as well. It's just any film I would see there because of that. But just was, for me, it was a bit of a letdown. But hey, it's your number 4. So different strokes, different folks.
Exactly.
My number 4, and I'll do it. I'm not going to dwell on it because we're running over a bit already, and I don't want to keep you too long. My number 4 probably needs no introduction. It's one of the Irwin Allens. It's the Poseidon Adventure.
Yeah.
My number 4 was originally Aeroplane 2, and then I realized that I didn't have Poseidon Adventure on my list. Anybody that knows me well will know that my favorite actor of all time, that I always wanted to work with, and he is still alive, but he's retired now, is Gene Hackman. My favorite British actor of all time, Richard Burton. American, Gene Hackman. And that was the film that introduced me to Gene Hackman. It is the traditional, you've got it's a by the numbers disaster movie script. You have the first 15 minutes introduces you to all the characters. You get the setup. The disaster happens. Some of those characters are killed immediately. Leslie Nielsen from the Naked Gun series, as he said on an interview, my line was, "Good God!" And that was his character done as the captain of the ship. But I mean, anyone that hasn't seen it, the premise is the ship gets turned upside down by a freak kind of wave in the ocean, and these survivors have to find their way out the ship. This is another film that I saw a clip of on Screen Test before I saw the movie, and the clip was Ernest Borgnine going into that tunnel, and he says that line, doesn't he? He says, "We're like peas trapped in a pod," something like that, and the water's rising, and that's where they ended the clip, and I was like, "Oh, I've got to see this."
Yeah,
I love the fact all the sets are upside down. And they were really clever with what they did with the sets that were upside down, and then the dilemmas that there were for the people because the sets were upside down. Like, having to try and go up the stairs via the ceiling. That you know, and okay, there was an annoying child actor in it, but
there always is though.
But it's a good cast. You've got Shelley Winters in there, Ernest Borgnine in there, Gene Hackman, of course, and you know, gradually people don't make it out, and it's got a killer ending because Hackman's character is a priest, and he's questioning his faith at the end. So he kind of calls that out, and I found that ending was really moving. And first time I saw it as a kid, I was pretty young. I was like, no, I think that's the first time I'd seen like a main character die in a show, and you sort of expect them to survive. I'll tell you what, that film still holds up really well. You know, I mean, it's a beautiful miniature of the ship, really nice miniature work, but the stunts and the sets, fantastic stuff.
This is where you may possibly fall out with me.
You don't like it?
No. I've only ever seen the original one time, back a long time ago.
That's all right.
However, I have seen the dodgy remake a couple of times.
I thought the remake was okay.
It's not great though, is it?
No, it's not great. It's a watchable popcorn. 2 hours or whatever.
And when you talk about annoying child actors, they took it up a notch for that movie.
yeah. I might have to look to see who that was, but I mean the actor in the original one. I mean, he was kind of a sort of brainiac, and that kid was a Disney actor, and he'd been in Eric Shear,
right,
who played him, and Eric Shear was in a few of my favorite Disney movies, and I got to say, actually, as an actor, I kind of rate him. I thought he was good, and you know, I saw him he was in Little House on the Prairie and a couple of other of those shows back in the day, and he was the whiz kid. He was the whiz kid in the Wonderful World of Disney, your Saturday night color, presented in Technicolor. You remember that? And he was in the Anna and the King television series as well. So he'd done quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So when I saw him, he had that familiarity for me. So, you know, then you don't find that person quite as annoying. Pamela Sue Martin was in it. And so I'll tell you who else was in it. Jack Albertson, who played the dad in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
All right.
As was Roddy McDowell, the original Planet of the Apes, you know, Dr. What's his name? Red Buttons. I mean, there was some, you know, these are big names back then. So Eric Shear was the kid in the original, and he was all right. And I actually quite rate him as an actor. But the kid in the remake, I know I'm going to have a quick look because I want to know who annoyed you so much.
Did you see the clip of Gene Hackman recently as well?
No, but he's looking a bit poorly. Yeah. I mean, I've written to him actually. I wrote to him in about 2006. I just knew the chances of us working together were slim, and I know his wife has a bespoke furniture store.
Yeah.
So I tracked it down, and I wrote an identical letter to his agent, and I sent one via the furniture store with a very profusely apologetic opening. And it wasn't a kind of, please come and work with me, read my script. It was like, I know we're not going to get to work together. I just need you to know, you know, I really loved all your films, and I cited a few things, and I just thought I've got to write it, because if I don't, I'll really regret it. So Wolfgang Petersen, who directed Das Boot, directed the remake of Poseidon, which was out in 2006, that starred Kurt Russell and Richard Dreyfuss. Josh Lucas, who I seem to recall was like an annoying villain in it.
Josh Lucas is he's like that generic faced guy in every movie.
Yeah.
I cannot stand seeing Josh Lucas's name on a movie.
Yeah, I mean,
and you know what it is? He's not a bad actor. He's actually quite a good actor. He just always gets thrown in that generic Jai Courtney, Joel Kinnaman role.
Yeah, he has played a lot of characters that are very, very samey.
Yeah.
I think I know who the kid is in question. Let's have a quick look at the IMDb list. Obviously, this will kill your chances of getting him to come on your channel for an interview. But
I don't mind.
So here's the cast list, right? So I think you might be talking about maybe Jimmy Bennett, because I think he would have been a child actor then.
Could be. Oh, look at that. Fergie from Black Eyed Peas was in it as well. Well, hey.
I mean, it's quite, it's obviously there was some nice paychecks for everyone.
Oh, definitely.
Judging by the look of it. I mean, is there a picture of Jimmy Bennett? Yeah, I mean, look, this is a child actor, man. Here we go. So,
oh shit! What was? Yeah, I remember.
Is that the kid? Is that the kid that you were thinking of?
He's really good in one film. I can't think what it is, but yeah.
So Jimmy, just if you do ever watch this, Kev actually does think you're great, and please come on his channel.
It's not in that.
Well, we'll talk to you about Poseidon. Quite like get me on as co-host. I quite like to talk about how they shot that. Oh my god, man, so many fucking adverts. Let's quickly reload that. So you see Andre Braugher. Now he's an actor that I massively rate. He's so good. Homicide, Life on the Street. And he plays a character with brain damage in that, who can't quite, before he was like the super cop, and then when he comes back after the brain damage, his career's not what it was. So yeah, it could have been Jimmy, could have been Freddie Rodriguez, might have been Mike Vogel. Not sure.
I mean, you're naming Andre Braugher things there, and all I'm thinking of is Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Right, so that was my number. So that was my number 4 and your number 4. So yes. Let's do our number 3. Mine's a slightly different one for number 3. What you got?
I've got Dante's Peak.
With Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan, Linda Hamilton, who is just, the ultimate badass. Love Linda Hamilton. It came out roughly around about the same time as Volcano.
It did. It came out in the same summer. I remember because I saw them within a week of each other at both at the cinema.
I like Volcano. I do like Volcano, but I prefer Dante's Peak because it actually feels like it could happen. Whereas Volcano just felt like it was too much. It was too much.
Yeah. The scene where the guy's running off the tram into the lava with the kid. Yeah. I remember that.
And I hate to. I really do hate to say it, but you will never in a million years get me to believe that Anne Heche would want to be with Tommy Lee Jones. You're not going to do that. It's not going to happen.
So, that's pretty funny. I'm with you on this. I quite liked Dante's Peak, and I think the reason that it was a half decent movie was the majority of that was not down to the plot or the script, but the performance from Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, he's great in it. He's great in it.
Really good.
This was kind of like Pierce Brosnan, sort of like in his heyday as well, like GoldenEye and all that kind of thing. Like he was doing Bond around about the same time, and like the Thomas Crown Affair, another fantastic Pierce Brosnan movie.
Oh, I took my dad to see that as well. Actually,
great film. And and Linda Hamilton. Who doesn't love Linda Hamilton? And that scene in the middle of the river, in the middle of the lake, when they're going from the other side, and they've got the grandma in the boat, and then the grandma basically it's heart wrenching. It's absolutely heart wrenching. I just think Dante's Peak's just it's a brilliant movie.
I've not seen it since I saw it at the cinema. That's one that I didn't rent later on for whatever reason. I think, and again, I also didn't rent Volcano. I saw them both at the cinema. I thought, that's okay, and that's why neither of them are in my list. But I definitely remember I enjoyed Dante's Peak more. My number 3 is a different threat. So, because Dante's Peak was also an eruption, wasn't it? It was also a volcanic eruption. This is a threat of disease. My number 3 was Outbreak.
Oh, I love Outbreak.
Great film.
Love that film.
I mean, again, on my list, I guess it's another one that's also an action movie because Cassandra Crossing and Outbreak are very similar. They're both about viruses breaking out, various characters caught up in that dilemma. And you swapped the train from Cassandra Crossing to a small town on the American East Coast, I think it is. Windshear, sorry, sir, it was Windshear, if you remember that line, with the bomb dropping at the end. And one of the pilots in that scene who misdrops the bomb is an actor called Cameron Dye, who at one point Cannon were trying to push his career like Jean-Claude Van Damme's. and he was in a film called Body Rock with Lorenzo Lamas, and he played Lorenzo Lamas's best friend. And actually the best actor in that film is Cameron Dye, and Cameron Dye could really act, and it was a shame that his career didn't go further, but he had a little role in Outbreak. But you had Morgan Freeman, Dustin Hoffman, who apparently is an absolutely horrible actor to work with on set. I've heard.
I refuse to believe that.
I've heard it from quite a few people. When you hear a couple of people, you think, okay, look, you might have had a bad day, but he did that rom-com, didn't he, with Emma Thompson? And I think him and the director weren't getting on very well on that rom-com. And it got to the stage where I think notes were being passed through assistants, and this assistant came with a note from the director to pass on to Dustin, and Dustin just lost his shit and called her effing blinding this. And I knew two crew that were on that film, and they both told me the same story. And this was in front of the whole crew. And then Emma Thompson, to her credit, then bollocked Dustin Hoffman and said, "How dare you speak to that woman like that? She was just doing her job. It's not her fault. Go and sort your shit out with the director. It's, you've got no right to." And then he was all like, "Yeah, okay," because he'd been bollocked by his co-star. Go, Emma Thompson, go! Love you, Emma Thompson.
I'd take a bollocking off Emma Thompson and start acting right. To be fair,
that's I mean, I get if he wasn't getting on, but that's not right to take it out on a like a runner.
No, definitely not.
It literally was like a runner. This girl was like a runner. She burst into tears on set, and that was a disaster movie, wasn't it, Dustin? That was a disaster for you. So, yeah. But anyway, gossip stories, terrible. Outbreak's really well done. It's got, loads of really great scenes. Like the scene in the cinema where you kind of zoom in on the guy that's coughing and you realize he's infecting everybody else in the cinema.
Yeah.
And it goes from. And Patrick Dempsey's got like a really small role. He's the guy that brings the monkey back to the town, isn't he? And
he is, yeah. God, Patrick Dempsey.
Yeah, he's got like a small role in it because he then went on to Grey's Anatomy and what have you, disappeared into television land. But yeah, good film. Morgan Freeman, really good in it. Kevin Spacey's in it.
Oh, where do you like? Just a quick one. It's probably a topic that would be best given a whole episode, but. Where do you fall on people's perceptions of Kevin Spacey's career now? As in, like, can you still go back and watch a Kevin Spacey movie, or is the whole shenanigans got you to the point where you're not sure anymore?
Well, you could ask me the same question about O.J. Simpson, couldn't you?
Absolutely.
Because O.J. Simpson allegedly killed somebody.
Yeah.
In horrific fashion as well, I might point out. And I mean, God, wasn't American Crime, the drama series that covered that? How good was that?
Yeah.
And I mean, that was what's his name who played O.J. Simpson? That's his finest hour, acting hour.
Cuba Gooding Jr.
Cuba Gooding Jr. His finest hour.
He was also an Outbreak.
Fuck, he wasn't he?
Yeah.
I forgot he was in that. I might watch that again tonight. It was really good. Yeah. So. I guess my answer is I can still go back and watch, and I think O.J. Simpson's in 2 films on my list. I can still go back and watch those films.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy those films, so why the fuck shouldn't I watch them?
Exactly.
That's not me endorsing him.
I've had that many people recently, like, and I've turned around and be like, "Oh, have you ever seen the Negotiator with Spacey and Sam Jack?"
That's a really good movie.
Yeah, man. And then they
really good movie.
"Oh, I can't watch anything with him in it now." And I'm like, "Why? It's a movie that he made 10, 15 years ago. Why can't you watch it now?"
Yeah, I mean, it's not the same as you saying, "Oh, I'm going to get Spacey's not working at the minute, so I'm going to give him a job in my low budget movie because that'll get lots of news," and it would.
Yeah.
And because that, in a way, I guess you would be saying you'd be endorsing the things he's allegedly accused of, because I don't actually think he's been convicted of anything.
Nothing yet.
And listen, I've heard lots of stories. I'm not going to get into that.
Oh, I bet.
But there's, I mean, okay, let's flip that around a bit. So my answer is no. I'll still watch stuff. A different dilemma, which we definitely listen. Let's do a stream about it because I'd love to talk about it. We can do it on your channel, whatever. But the whole cancelling of GINA CORANO. Now that's a subject. That's a subject that I feel very strongly about. The clues in the hat, right? And the Outcast creative are doing a play about it called The Tweet. We're going to do it online. It's going to be an online production. We're going to perform it live. I haven't finished the script yet. I've written portions of the script. Now we're doing the post office scandal, and that's happening on stage. And we haven't done anything on stage since before the lockdown, so that's kind of taking over. But we are going to do The Tweet. And do I think Corano should have been cancelled out of Star Wars? Absolutely not. No. And actually, people then I talk to people about it, and they say, "Oh, but she said all these things," and I just turn around to them and say, "How much research have you done on exactly what she said, when, and why?" And if you then go and look at all that stuff, it's actually not that controversial. No. At one point, she was that whole thing with she was endorsing the Holocaust or whatever. No, she was. So no, that's not what happened in that conversation. That's what somebody said happened that then became fact. It's the way that's twisted and stuff gets turned around now. Makes you think twice about absolutely everything you're saying.
People are just too quick. They're too quick to judge and too quick to cancel, and it's killing.
And and that of itself is a form of fascism, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
And it's look, I'm quite a liberal guy, you know, and I've got friends of every race, religion, sexual definition, all of that. My palette of friends is very, very colourful, and I love them all. Yeah. But anyone who, whether my friends, whether they're on the right or whether they're on the left or whatever, if they start turning around and telling people how they've got to think on absolutely everything, I'll have an issue with it wherever they stand, because that's the nature of a democracy.
Exactly.
And we are with the first time a bit here, but it's all right. It's another stream, but it's a good. You know, I don't believe in cancel culture, and I believe in conversations. I believe in discussions. Let's have a discussion about it.
I'm definitely with you with Corano as well. Like, and I'll be completely honest. I haven't watched an episode of The Mandalorian since that news dropped.
I mean, yeah,
she was my favorite. She's easily the best character in the show.
If any character should have had a spin-off show, it should have been hers. Absolutely 2000%. And I know they were talking about it before all that nonsense happened. And I mean, like, look, I don't like President Trump. I don't like any of the things he stands for. In fact, I positively loathe the man at the best of times. Do I think the people that voted for him should not be employed in jobs? No, I don't.
No, of course not.
Of course I don't. I've got American friends who voted for him, okay, who are friends of mine, and they're friends of mine because we don't talk politics generally. That doesn't make them a bad person, okay? They might have their own reasons, whether it's a tax reason or whatever. And, so there we go. Anyway, so I apply these same laws to my digestion of films. All right, we're down to our number 2 now. What's your number 2?
Well, my number 2 and even my number 1, we've both already spoken about. My number 2 is Miracle Mile.
Right.
Again, we don't need to go into it, but it's just I love that movie, and it hit me in quite a profound way when I finally saw it, when I got advised to watch it, and I just think it's a great film. So yeah,
don't let's not. I think you said on what your number 1 is. I'm going to talk about my number 2, which I bet you will have either loved this film or you would have hated it. If you loved it, because I absolutely loved it, saw it at the cinema, was on the edge of my seat from start to finish. And I thought, is it a disaster film? I had to think about it a bit. And I thought, well, if Armageddon is a disaster film, this definitely qualifies as Gravity.
See, I saw this on quite a few top 10 lists, and I never really thought about Gravity as a disaster film. But then the more I thought about it, and I was talking to the wife about it earlier, it absolutely is. It definitely is. I think you can definitely put that in there.
I mean, you could. It's a cross genre.
Yeah.
So I mean, it could sit happily in science fiction. but it's another one of the films that feels real. It's set
Yeah.
now. It's the technology that's available now. This could definitely happen to somebody. There's so much crap up in space as well that we've thrown up there thinking it's space, it's big, it's never going to come back to haunt us. Yeah, boy, are we wrong about that. So I really like it. It's the director Alfonso.
It's the guy that did The Artist, wasn't it?
Yeah, his name.
What is his name again?
Is it Alfonso Cuarón or something like that?
That's it. And he did The Revenant.
Right, also a good movie. I mean, just the direction, the way that they did the effects, it's so real. You know, and I mean, it's essentially a four-hander. The stuff with George Clooney's character, I really liked, but it's really Sandra Bullock's movie.
Oh yeah.
And it's speed in space.
Speed in space.
Speed in space is what it is, but it's really well done. And you see, what I remembered about it was I was on the edge of my seat. I was completely invested. I was never bored, and it also took me to places I'd never been before. Any movie that can do that has got to be on my top 10 list if it fits into that category. And I decided, yeah, it does. So that was my number 2. I think your number 1 was Twister, right?
Yeah, but before that, Gravity. I do like that movie. I do like that movie, and I remember watching it with my wife the first time. She's not a big sci-fi fan, doesn't like sci-fi at all, not really into it. And we were sitting watching it, and obviously what happens to George Clooney happens at the start of the film, and then he does come back later on. And she was so happy that George Clooney was still alive. She was so happy at that moment that she went, "Ah!" And then he came into the hatch, and I sort of just looked at her and I was like, "Lindsay, she's just opened the hatch and she doesn't have a suit on. What about this scene makes you think that it's actually happening?" Bless her.
I just realised I forgot to change the numbers for the last 3 picks. I've just stuck the thing up for number 2 now. But we were stuck on 6 for a bit. You're supposed to tell me these things, Nerdly. Honestly, you've got to be my wingman on these things.
Twister's my number 1, so let's get into your number 1.
Well, my number 1 is a bit of an obvious one, and I meant to have the special edition of it in here. So I could hold it up in front of the camera, which I've left in the other room. So that's a bit annoying. But again, it's an Owen Allen. It's possibly the first disaster movie I saw on the TV. It might have been the second one, but it's the Towering Inferno, which is a classic. Not many people haven't seen it. I mean, there's a number of reasons I like it, but I'll tell you a quick story why I was so invested in it and seeing it. Is my father used to work for a company called NewSwift, which manufactured fire extinguishers. It was Danish, and they had a big window display office a couple of doors down from Hamleys. And my father always did these huge displays of fire in the window, and he was very clever. What he did was he got these industrial blowers that he rigged up under the window. And then it was like this kind of red wrapping paper, you know, the stuff that's kind of like shiny. And when you do that and you set it in a certain way and cut it in a certain way, it all looks like flames. So he always had these displays, and he had this thing called the Fire Fiend that he designed for NewSwift, which was the sort of the monster, the creature that started the fires. And he did these animations. He did an animation of the Fire Fiend and this kind of thing. And somebody, a producer for Towering Inferno, don't know whether it was Owen Allen or whoever, might have been him, but it was somebody for the company that made the film. And I think it was shot by 20th Century Fox, I think. He was in London going to the Hamleys toy store to get some presents for his kids to take on the plane back to the States. And he was... I think he was over in London making arrangements for the London premiere, and he saw my dad's window display and basically went in there and was like, "Man, this looks really great. I'm the producer on Towering Inferno. How about we do some kind of promotion with you guys, and I'll get you all tickets to the premiere and all this kind of thing." So
Nice.
I was like, I think I was a baby when the film came out, because I think it was 72, might have been. I think it was
74, maybe.
Yeah, maybe seven.
was a
Yeah, 70. So I mean, I really literally would have been a baby. But basically, my mum and dad got to go to the premiere. What I did have was I had a UK cinema quad of Towering Inferno on my wall for absolutely ages, which, by the way, now would be worth several hundred quid. And one time when my parents grounded me, I threw a massive strop and I ripped it up.
Oh, dude.
I know, it's so bad. But I had this poster on my wall for like forever, but didn't get to go to the movie because I was so tiny. So when it was the first time it was on the telly, can't remember who had it, whether it was ITV or BBC, but you know what they did back then? They trailered these films like 4 months ahead. Coming soon for the Easter bank holiday Monday or weekend or whatever. And Steve McQueen and Paul Newman. It's bigger than they've ever fought before. The Towering Inferno, this kind of thing. And then it starts with this scene with this helicopter flying over the bay in San Francisco, where the film is set. And you've got this fantastic score that comes on, and the cast as well. It's an amazing cast, like Robert Vaughn, Fred Astaire's in it as well. And then I think it's Dana Winter. I need to get the IMDb up for this. I should be.
Your man OJ's in there as well, isn't he?
Yeah. So that like I said, he's in 2 of my films, and he rescues someone's cat, and actually that was the film that introduced me to him as an actor, and he probably was the first black actor that I ever saw in a major role in a film that felt really big, and that's one of the reasons why I really rate the movie. Let's just have a quick.
Is this not the one as well where McQueen and Newman fought over the poster?
They did.
It was
over the billing.
Newman had to be first, so McQueen had to be a little bit higher or something like that.
Yeah, they're both on screen at the same time.
Yeah,
and so because one of them's first, technically on this side, this side. Yeah. So the other one argued that they should be higher on this side. So they ended up, and that was like a really complex negotiation.
Yeah. And do they not have they've got like the same amount of lines in the movie, or is that a myth? Or
no, that's true as well. That's
Jesus.
True. They had their agents go through the script and make sure that they not the same amount of lines, the same number of words.
Oh, come on.
Same number of yeah. I mean, you're talking 2 of the biggest egos in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, definitely.
McQueen's ego was really big, but
rightly so.
I mean, this is a different era, but one of the things that's really impressive about the film that really holds up well today is the miniature work. And what's really interesting about the model that they built, which you can see in the background of some of the shots playing in the trailer here, is they built it like it was about, I think the actual model, the miniature, was something like about 4 or 5 stories high. You can see a photo of it. In fact, they might have that photo on IMDb, if they've got one of the there's 133 photos here, so there's a good chance that photo might be there. Maybe not. But this model, so this model here, this was about 6 stories high, and there is a photo of it during the day on the back lot with the camera crane, right? And they built it so that on one side it's the miniature to scale, and then on the other side it's 6 stories of the thing with the lift on it, so they could film the actors on the other side of it. So you've got the miniature on one side of it because the miniature was so big, and then on the other side of it, they could put actors in the lift that comes down the side and all that kind of thing. So that's a really economical use of your time and your skill sets there. Don't build them like that anymore,
No, nowadays they'll just throw a green screen all over it.
Yeah, and I remember I think we had like a roll of like 20 posters that Dad brought back from the office, and I think actually it was an American quad that I had, because I seem to recall it was this size, and it was on my door. But it's I mean, it is very by the numbers, but it's got great scenes, really clever set of characters. Robert Wagner's character, who's having an affair with his secretary, their scene is, what happens to them is particularly horrific and extremely well done.
Yeah.
And they destroyed all the sets with fire for real, which, you know, must have been an interesting time. So yeah, that's my number one. There we are. There we got our top 10 now.
Good number one. I like Towering Inferno. It's one of those ones I've only ever seen it maybe a couple of times in my life, but I do love it. It's like you say, it's got everything in it.
Yeah,
like
and
yeah.
There's the characters are really good, and I one of the other things I do is I like dabbling with designs of board games, because you can see I've got all these board games here. And my names are in a couple of the rule books of those because I play tested them before they were released. And I always thought that Towering Inferno, right, would make for a really good board game where you've got, like, you know, you've got the art thief, you've got the mayor, you've got the architect, you've got the fire chief, and these are like a set of 8 characters. And you use those characters to try and get your pieces out of the tower. A bit similar to the game Citadel. So I designed the map for it, which I've got in a tube in the shed. It's all been printed up and everything. And then the players, there's a set of cards, and you can increase the fire or decrease the fire depending on what you want to try and do to the other players' pieces to try and stop them. Everyone's got 10 pieces they've got to try and get out, and the person who gets the most out wins the game. That was the basic premise of it. And you use the characters to help you, and that you get them in random order each turn. And then we were getting to the playtesting stage, and you know what happened? 9/11.
Oh God, yeah.
And I was like, I'm not sure I want to make a board game anymore about people trying to get out of a burning building.
That's going to stop you dead in your tracks, isn't it?
Yeah, because I called the name of the board game was Trapped in a 70s Disaster Movie. That was the name of the board game, because it had all those like nods. But yeah, then it was like, oh, you know. And there's I had all the different ways people could escape. They could try and get to the roof, and there would be a card where a helicopter would come up eventually, and it might land safely or not. And you had the little lift going down the side, but I had the lift, and it was like a pod, and on the artwork it was attached with like a bicycle chain, so it looked like really weak. And then there was, you know, different lifts that went down inside and this kind of thing, but never got to complete it. Maybe I will now. Maybe there's a bit enough distance, people won't make that association, because I just didn't want to be disrespectful in any way to that. So there we go. So that's top 10 disaster films with Nerdly UK. What you got coming up, guest wise, interviews and things? Because you've had all sorts of people on your channels and podcasts. All the links for Nerdly, by the way, are down there.
Yeah. Check them all out. We are Nerdly UK on YouTube and everything. Pretty much. I was just at the Romford Film Festival, and I did loads of in-house stuff while I was there. But there was a few people I couldn't get to, so I'm kind of just catching up with them right now. And I've got a few low-budget short guys coming on.
That's a great festival, isn't it?
It's brilliant.
Let's give them a shout out, because
I've been working with them for 3-4 years now, doing like the selections and the judges and everything. But this year was the first year I got down there, and it was just a whole different experience. And it's 100% my wheelhouse. It's what I want to be doing. These are the people I want to be speaking to. Yeah. And we had Larry Lamb there down there this year. That was pretty cool seeing Larry Lamb.
Yeah.
I think I was maybe a little bit ignorant to him, but I had like 7 different things going on at the same time, and he kind of like came over, and I sort of like shook his hand, and I was like, right, nice to meet you, but I really need to be over here. So that probably wasn't the best example to set from.
You know, he probably hasn't run a film festival, but
it'd be fine.
My favourite performance of his would be Buster, because he was in that. He played one of the robbers with Phil Collins, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I rate him as an actor. I think he's really good.
That
they have genuine screenings. People come and watch the films. It's not one of these nonsense film festivals where they whack films up. They don't tell anybody they're on. You pay for an expensive awards dinner. Don't get me started on them. We could do another stream about that. I actually spoke to the guy running it.
Nice.
I forget his name now. Remind me.
Spencer Hawking.
Right. I spoke to Spencer, and bless him, he said, "Listen, Lance. Oh yeah, I've heard lots of really lovely things about you because we never met properly." He said, "Listen, if you want to come down, you can come and see whatever you want as long as we can. There's a spare seat. You can just go in, and I'd love you to come down and see what it's all about because we had a really nice conversation about what is a film festival." I couldn't. I can't remember what we had on, but there was something going on with the Outcast, and it was all culminating that weekend. And I was trying to get there on the Sunday, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, listen, let him know, and you can point him to the time code on this video. I'd love to be there next year. I'd be happy to be a judge. I know that's quite a lot of work, but I'll put it out there now that I'll be up for it. So
I didn't realize how much work that would be when I first signed up.
I've done it for a couple of festivals. It's quite a lot of work. I mean, what you want to say to them is narrow it down to your final submissions, and I'll look at all of them. I'm not looking at everything that comes in.
Well,
that's most of the work, and that's what they've got to do. They've got to pick.
That's all changing as of next year. So I find out in the next month or so kind of what my role is going to be going forward. But we're going for the BIFA accreditation next year. We're going to be scored on that,
right?
Which basically means like anything that wins kind of is then BAFTA qualifying, which is it's cool for us. It'll be good. Be amazing for the festival. Get some higher quality stuff in there. So I don't know. My role there, I don't know if I'll still have to watch everything. I've pretty much told Spencer, whatever you want me to do, I'm happy to do it. But that first year when I says, "Oh yeah, I'll come on board, I'll help you out, I'll watch all the films and everything," and he goes, "Right, so here's the Film Freeway link. Get yourself on there, watch everything there." And I clicked it, and there was 300 submissions, and I was like, "You are kidding!" And every year since, it's just been more.
Right.
So literally for next year, I've already started watching them. Like I've had to.
Right.
It's mad. And now we've got the main festival. We've also in February got the horror festival. So I need to watch all the horror submissions and then the main submissions. Don't get me wrong. I love doing it because
I mean we like watching films, don't we? I'm gonna so for those people watching, I'm putting the link to the ROMFORD Film Festival under Kevin's link, so that's also there now under.
But I mean, some of the stuff that I've seen through the festival has just been incredible. There's so much amazing independent talent out there that I don't think gets nearly the credit it deserves, the eyeballs on it, and that's kind of why I do what I do with Nerdly. It's why I do what I do with the YouTube channel. It's why I joined up with Romford. Like I need to make sure people see some of these movies. I mean, Tom Payton's first movie, Pandora, that was a festival release that I saw, and I mean, look what he's up to now. So
I was there.
Yeah, Pandora is
that was when he gave out the graphic novel, and I tried to win it, but I didn't get it.
You can get it on eBay.
Yeah, but I liked Pandora a lot, and way more than Redwood. That's really the only film of his that I wasn't for me, but
Pandora's got this like this wealth of like a world, like
he really created something there, and I bought into it completely, and I like the music. The music score was really good.
Oh, Max is fantastic. Max Weary, that's his score. Just he's some boy.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Here, so while we're talking about independent films, before you go, I just saw the trailer for Prizefighter, which is Matt Hooking's movie, which I think's had quite a long and difficult journey getting made. One of the funny things about that film is when I was working on another movie that didn't happen that we won't talk about, but you know which one I mean. The producers told me they were working on 2 other films, and one of them was that one.
Oh God!
And it was it was before our film went tits up. They told me they'd fallen out with the director. It was his fault. He didn't want to change anything. He didn't listen to any of their notes. They slagged him off. They didn't tell me who he was, by the way, but I'm assuming that they're talking about Matt because he was the driving force behind that movie. Now, it may have been a completely different film, but it had that title. That was the title. So I'm pretty sure it was that film. And I have a feeling that at one point Liam Neeson was attached to that movie at one stage. If that's the case, then it was the same film.
Yeah,
and
pretty
when
sure.
I saw that it had come out, I'm so glad it hasn't got their fingerprints on it, and that you know, whoever he made it with, it wasn't them. Because you don't want those people.
No, I like Matt. I interviewed him talking like 4 or 5 years ago now for Winter Ridge, the one that he did with Dom Lenoir.
It was just after he'd done that I tried to get hold of him, because that was when I heard what I heard, and I thought, shit, I've got to speak to him. And we had a few.
A good portion of our interview was also talking about Prizefighter, because obviously, like you say, at that point in time, it was his baby, and he was trying to get it off the ground and everything. And it's so funny, because the other day when I saw the trailer getting posted, and I got like a solicit email from whoever's putting it out there, distributing it. Can you check the trailer out? We might have a link closer to the time. Would you fancy having a look at it? And you know what it is? It was one of those ones. It was quite a sweet moment, because I opened the email, I saw the trailer, and I was like, "Holy shit, you made it!"
Yeah, no, because it's really great that I know I just saw it, and it's kind of, I mean, he didn't direct it; it's directed by a guy called Daniel Graham. And Jodie May is one of my favorite actresses. She doesn't work that much now, I think by choice. She just does other things, but anything she's in, she's always great. And then, of course, you know, it's got Ray Winston and Russell Crowe. So,
yeah,
I mean, you know,
if you haven't heard of them,
well, you haven't. What planet have you been? Living on? I'm just having a quick look at the producers list, just to. I mean, God, this is a long list of producers, man.
Yeah,
I
think
long list.
I think over the years and over the time, there's been a few people involved. There's been a few people, but
Alexa Warg was the line producer on it. I've met her. Yeah,
Alexa.
I like her. I've been trying to work with her for some time.
Oh, she's great. She's great. Total workhorse as well.
Yeah, and David Friedman was on it, who was also due to work on Pegasus, and that was his post that I saw the trailer for. So he worked on it as well. I mean, look, credit to them. You know, they shot in Lithuania and Malta as well for the thing. So it's premiering online, isn't it? Are they not doing like not hiring a screen out somewhere and doing
I believe it's Amazon. It's going to Amazon as an original, but I imagine, I know Matt likes to try and get his films into the theaters at least once, so I imagine it'll be there somewhere.
Well, listen, Matt, if you watch this, congratulations, mate, because I know you had a long, tumultuous journey getting this made, and believe me, I know what that's like, because I've been there. I'm proper made up for you that this is out. And
it is one of those ones, because I mean, you know yourself, you're in the industry, so you've had a few projects that have fallen by, and then you've had a few projects that you've got made. But the amount of people that I've spoken to over the years, that when I look back at like the early episodes, and it's sort of like that film never happened, like, and it's such a shame. So when I do see one like Prizefighter that got made and it's coming out, and it fills you full of hope, because we've got so much talent in this country that I just want to see. There's another lad I'm speaking to right now. He's just made a movie called Eating Miss Campbell, I think it's called. It's a trauma movie, so it might not be in your wheelhouse.
No, I know The Toxic Avenger and Surf Nazis Must Die. You're talking to Lance Nilsson here, man. I know my films. I know my films. I don't mind those. A
couple of years back, he made a film called My Bloody Banjo that me and Phil at Nerdly, we both loved. And Eating Miss Campbell's had a bit of a road to get made, but it's coming now, and I've seen an early screener of it, and I'm pretty happy with what the guy's done. So it's another one that I'm just kind of, you know what, thank God these things actually do happen and these films do get made.
That's mate, that's an interesting title right there, Eating Miss Campbell.
Well, when you watch it, there's a reason it's called Eating Miss Campbell.
I'm intrigued.
There's a slight double entendre going on there.
I can imagine that. I can imagine that there is. I've seen. Yeah, listen, man. I'm conscious of the time. I thought about this other film I want to bend your ear on, but we'll do that another day.
Bend away. It's up to you. It's your
You
stream.
sure? Well,
Yeah, it's your
okay.
stream.
So I used to work in a video shop, right? Surprise, surprise. The next thing you'll tell me is, oh, that's funny because I think you look a bit like Quentin Tarantino, which I get told like once a week. It's the chin. See this angle?
It's definitely the chin.
Yeah. So yeah, and I wish I had his money. But there was a movie that came out, and I don't know who brought it out. And I don't know if you remember your 80s and 90s video label distributors. You know, you had it like Eve in Entertainment and Video. You had Charles Band. You remember all those Ghoulies, Robot Jocks, all that stuff?
Yeah, Ghoulies. Yeah.
Right. So there was a movie that came out. I remember the trailer very clearly. I never got to watch it, and it was a B movie. It was about seven. There was some kind of take on the Seven Samurai. It wasn't that type of movie. It wasn't like seven guys defending a thing, and wasn't that. But there were like these seven weird looking creatures that were like a cross, like almost like a zombie samurai creature, and each one of them had a different name, and that was part of the trailer. It was like, you know, one of them might have been called like Axe, and another one might have been called Grinder or something. That's a gay app now, so that probably was an unfortunate name. But that was the trailer. It was like, you know, you're going to face the seven creatures of whatever. And I always wanted to see this movie, and they had it at the video shop, and it was just one that I never took home. I can't remember why. Can't remember the title. I've been trying to track it down for like forever, and it came out around the same time as C.H.U.D, if you remember that.
Yeah,
which is about there were two movies for C.H.U.D and C.H.U.D 2, and that was about creatures living in the sewers, and it was quite a simple premise, but that was quite a good B movie. It was released the same year, I think, as the sequel, but I can't remember the movie.
It's not ringing any bells off the top of my head, but
yeah. It's one of them ones. And do you know what? I bet at some point I'll track it down. I'll get a copy of it, and it'll be awful.
No, they never are. They never are.
No, well, we'll see. But,
I was like that with Attack of the Giant Killer Tomatoes. You know, the George Clooney one.
Yeah. That's not a good film, man.
It's a fucking great film. It's just stupid.
If you want to see a good film in that vernacular, you've got to get Roddy Piper's Hell Comes to Frogtown. You seen that?
Seen that one, no.
Mate, that's a classic. You got to see Hell Comes to Frogtown.
As a huge wrestling fan, Roddy Piper, yeah, I'll watch it.
You've seen that picture. You've seen that picture of me and him, right?
No.
Because he came to my store where I was working for Virgin. I had a vinyl soundtrack of They Live, and I got him to sign it, and I still have it.
Nice.
And now I might have this photo on this computer. If I have, I'll share it. Let me have a quick look. Somebody had an Instamatic camera in the store, and this is pre-digital era, you know. And I got my photo taken with him, and I found it. And here we go. I'm gonna share it for you. Hold on. See if I can do this. And it's by the way, this is quite a long time ago. So here it is. Check it out.
Nice.
Check out those 80s glasses. Actually, I think this
like those 80s glasses.
dude, this was taken in 1992, and I had considerably more of my teeth then. I believe
these days we call those the Deirdre Barlows.
Yeah, you may well have done. So that's me with Roddy Piper.
That's a legend right there.
And I said to him, what was it like working with John Carpenter? Because I'm massive John Carpenter fan. Big Trouble, especially The Thing, you know, his early stuff especially. And I like Prince of Darkness of his later films. And he was like, dude, he's far out, man. He's out there. He's far out. He's out there. That's what he kept saying to me. So Hell Comes to Frogtown, right? The whole movie. the whole movie is on YouTube. I just found a link for it. But here's here's an HD trailer for it. Check this out. All right. Don't know if I put the sound on for this. I don't know if I get demonetized, but then my channel's not monetized anyway at the minute. So why do I give a fuck about that? So yeah, this is the trailer, right, for Hell Comes to Frogtown.
In the future.
Just in case.
In the future, why?
Now, did you wait? Let's go back. So you see that shot, right? Look at that location. Now that's that plant that's disused. It's not that far. It's halfway between Las Vegas and Los Angeles. That was used in the set of Independence Day for LA after it's been destroyed. It was in the film. It was in the film Apex, which was like a late 80s, early 90s kind of robot sort of Holocaust thing. Anything that was set in the Holocaust that was shot in California, they use this location, and it's in so many films. Anyway,
there will come a time to rebuild.
I love that. Love the way the hand comes in.
And a need for a special kind of soldier.
This man is carrying a loaded weapon.
Prepare to meet the next great American hero.
That's where you come in.
Are you serious?
His name is
Hell. Sam Hell.
We're going to Frogtown.
And this is the adventure he's been waiting for.
I mean, it's just brilliant.
We're going to get him out, and then you're going to get him pregnant.
If anyone's got a chance in hell of rescuing the virgins from the evil clutches of Toady.
It's a miracle.
Right. Let's go.
And escaping
Mate, how can you not have seen this?
Yeah, I'm wishing I'd seen it already.
Holy shit! Be there for the action. The adventure.
Sam, what are you doing?
And be there for the dance of the three snakes.
Dance or die? We're all gonna die.
When hell comes to Frogtown. Starring Roddy Piper as Sam. You are one here, dude. Sandal Bergman as Nurse Spangle.
Nurse Spangle. What a name.
Hell comes to Frogtown.
Eat left, froggies.
I feel like I've got to show this trailer at my Christmas movie quiz, actually. I don't know why I haven't. Mate, I mean, you know. I don't know if that classifies as a disaster film, but I'm showing it.
It looks like one.
On YouTube. Do you know what? It's actually, I mean, it is low budget and everything, but it's actually a lot of fun. And it was one of those films that you rented out, and it was, you know, you thought it was going to be awful, and it was actually surprisingly good.
Oh, I've had a few of them over the years.
Yeah, it's like Sword and the Sorcerer. Oh, dude, yeah. Talking of which, look, see this. Look, the vinyl soundtrack, man, to Sword and the Sorcerer.
Nice.
Remember that?
Nice.
With Richard Lynch, and yeah, that's. I'm gonna do a fantasy stream, top 10 fantasy movies, or maybe sci-fi fantasy, and I was thinking about caveating it with like before 2005, something like that. So that would definitely be one on my list. All right, listen, man. Oh,
yeah, man.
Hell, we've gone over an hour longer. I know that normally these are 90 minutes, and we're 2.5 hours.
That's my fault. That's my fault.
No, it's good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all chatting. Somebody will watch it eventually and go, "Wow, those guys knew a lot, didn't they?" It's such a shame we didn't tune in live. So, listen, be great to have you back to do another one of these.
Absolutely, man.
If
Anytime.
you're up for it. And,
Anytime.
Yeah, listen, likewise, if you ever want a chatty co-host talking bollocks on your stream, I'm up
100%.
for it.
100%. We'll get it done. We'll get it done.
There ain't a lot of films I haven't seen. So look, if you've enjoyed this stream, spread the word, spread the love, share the links. Only takes a couple of seconds. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check Nerdly stuff out. Loads of really interesting interviews on there with people in front and behind the camera. Kind of a bit of a similar vein, I guess, to the Outcast Creative channel, but also other stuff as well. So do check that out. I've got some other stuff coming up in the very near future. I'm supposed to have this time next week. I'm supposed to have Craig Fairbrass on,
Nice.
talking top 10 crime genre TV shows. And
Well,
boy,
he'll have seen them all.
no, that's a hard list, man, because you're including all the Nordic noir stuff. We're including all the Italian shows like Gomorrah. You've got your Spanish shows, so you've got Money Heist, and then you've got all the American stuff. You've got your NYPD Blue, the Shield, which if you look at behind me, you can see I've got the entire collection there. So that's going to be on my list. I can tell you now. It's a big genre, man. There's a lot of stuff. So getting 10 on the list, because I had like 20, 30 shows that I really liked. Narrowing it down to 10 was, is that better than that? I don't know. That was really hard. So we got that next Sunday. And then I've also got coming up, this is an interesting one. So before that, on Wednesday, I'm talking to August Han, who is one of the guys who's behind republishing the Lone Wolf books. So I don't know if you ever read any of these as a kid, but these are these adventure game books where, do you want to go into the Dragon's Cave? If you do, turn to page 65.
Like you roll a number or
yeah.
Like choice-based gaming kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
I
like
remember
a solo
that.
thing. Well, these ones, I had the original editions of these, and these are the original ones here. So here's the original Fire on the Water. This is the reprint, and they're revamping. Yeah, they're revamping them all. They're bringing them out. One of the guys who's key behind it, Joe Deaver, I met him. Actually, did some wargaming with him, but he sadly passed away of cancer in 2016. The guy who wrote them originally, but they're sort of tightening up all the lore and correcting any mistakes, and they're reissuing all the books in these really nice hardback editions. I've got the first 3. I'm going to be doing a stream where I'm going to be playing them online, which is going to be funny.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, but I'm interviewing August. That's next Wednesday. So if you want to come along and check that out, he's going to be talking about the plan for the whole thing, how it all came about. We're going to look at some of the artwork, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's another creative person, but from a completely different field again, because that's what we like to do on the channel. Anything that's creative, whether you're a comic book artist, graphic novelist, script writer, cameraman, makeup artist. If you'd like to come and do an interview and talk about your profession and the ins and outs and share your knowledge, benefit those trying to come up behind you, we'd love to have you on. So thanks very much. All right, so that's good night from him, and it's good night from me. Always be kind to people, guys, and don't forget to tell the people that you care about that you love them. Pick up the phone. Don't send a text. All right. Speak soon.